But I was told that this is South Africa. Every guest is important. So for you to leave what you're doing, to come here tonight, to celebrate with us at the Africa Venture Philanthropy Alliance, I'd like to say a warm welcome to all of you special guests. A round of applause. In my country, they say that when a lizard jumps from a very tall building and hits the ground, what does he do? He nods his head. That is, if nobody recognizes me, I recognize myself. So and I've done really well. So tonight we're here not only to watch the board and management of the AVPA come this far, we're here to celebrate with them and also to celebrate the diversity, our heritage as Africans. So on behalf of the board and management, I'd like to say, Akwaba, Karibu, Ekabo, Soyez la bienvenue, Murakaneza. If I murdered your language, please, I'm trying to say welcome. That's the beautiful thing about Africa. As our countries are different, our faces are different, and so is our language. And I'm dressed tonight like a Hausa princess and with my gele from the southern part of Nigeria. Please, a round of applause. I got that memo from Frank, and I got that early. So I didn't want to disappoint him, so I'm here tonight. Frank, am I okay? Where's Frank? Where's Frank? Thank you very much. So tonight is going to be a very interesting night filled with activities. Shortly after this session, I'll be calling the CEO to give his opening remarks. And then we have two interesting discussion sessions, one from the Bayer Foundation Women Empowerment Award, and leveraging catalytic capital to crowd in private capital into social investment. That's a panel session. We'll have a keynote address somewhere midway, and that will be delivered by the Minister, Honorable Minister of Social Development of the Republic of South Africa. And then we'll have a message from AVPA, and then we will dive into the reason why we're here tonight. The AVPA team will be explaining the AVPA membership, and then the chairman's remarks, vote of thanks, and then item 7 in Nigeria. We love item 7. And what is item 7, please? Who knows? Food! So tonight is really going to be exciting. I'd like to indulge you, or I'll crave your indulgence, so please stay with us till the very end. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, join me to make welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the Africa Venture Philanthropy Alliance, Dr. Frank Aswani.
Thank you, Tamara. I didn't think we'd fill this room, actually. When we came to book this place, we were debating whether we should take a place as full as this, but thank you so much for making it. For the people who made the effort to dress African, you look lovely. For those who didn't, you're not coming for the cocktail. But thank you, everyone. I mean, it's been a long journey for us to get here, and one that's been totally worth it. And I'm really glad to be here today to share this day with you. I'm the CEO at AVPA, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today. So I'm going to try and get this clicker to work. Okay, there you go. Right. So I thought, should I write a speech? But then I thought, I want people to remember what I say. And so I'm a big believer that people remember more what they see as well, more than just what they hear. And this continent is as important to me as it is to you, so I thought, let's make this a bit of a meaningful session. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of different things. But before I go any further, the first thing I want to do is, first of all, just say thank you. Thank you to everyone who's here today. Thank you to people who've been with us when we were nothing and unknown, the point of where we are today. we do not take your time and patience with us for granted. I want to say thank you to our partners, people who funded us when we were just an idea on paper. The Yellowwoods of this world, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, thank you. I want to say thank you to the people who took a chance with us when we had no programs, but we saw a need that was worth fulfilling, and they funded us to do something. The Open Our Family, thank you. I want to say thank you to the board who help us and steer us in the right direction. And I'm going to introduce some of my board members, actually my board members to you. And it's good that the joy of being a young organization is that there's a good range of history in that board. So for starters, two of my board members were actually here when Avpa started. Paul and Julio, can you stand up, please? Please remain standing. Please remain standing. Paul, on the far right, made the first trip to Africa to find out if it was worth doing anything around Avpa. Julio is the only African who speaks Spanish. His Kiswahili is as good as his Spanish, by the way, so please engage him at some point tonight. Okay? So Paul and Julio, we appreciate the fact that you've been here for more than 5 years, from birth to now. Thank you very much. A couple of years ago, we made a decision that we had to look at the gender equality and diversity of our board, and we brought in some really powerful women. I want to please introduce Ua from Nigeria. And I want to introduce Florenza from Mozambique. In absentia, I also want to recognize Ali, Ganila, and Lorraine, who will not make it today. But 5 of our board members are female who, and trust me, they're tough women. Thank you. Okay. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the other board members here. Patrick Paring, who's from Cape Town, hosting us today. Patrick also chairs our Southern Africa board. I want to recognize Joe Gutu, who's from Kenya. Okay. Joe Gutu is also just recently retired, Joe, haven't you? Yeah. He's also the chairman of probably the 2 biggest foundations in East Africa, Safaricom and M-Pesa Foundation. They've done some phenomenal work in that part of the world. So please, if you get time with Joe, please talk to him. And last but not least, I want to introduce my chairman, Dutun Suleiman. Okay. Dotun is the second chairman at Avpa, and I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the other founding members who are not here, the likes of Pat Pillay, Yemi Cardoso, just to tell them thank you. Alex, who's a big key part of this, Alejandro, Doug Miller, without whom this idea of the Venture Philanthropy Network would not have been born. So thank you. All protocol duly observed. Okay, so why are we here? The thing that makes us different and passionate is that something insane about us makes us run to problems, not away from them. That sets us apart from any other type of investors you may find. Okay? But they're daring problems that we've got to pay a lot of attention to. And this is something we've got to keep talking about. How do we fall in love with the problem that we're trying to solve, not our solutions? Okay? Some big things are changing on the continent that we have to pay attention to. Aid to Africa, that has been a foundation of this continent's growth in the last 50 years, is declining. Trump, the UK government have all cut aid to Africa. In fact, it's gone down faster than US global giving has grown. Okay? We cannot build a continent on a declining source of funding. Youth unemployment, arguably one of our biggest risks. Average age of 19 compared to the US, maybe 42, Europe maybe 44, Japan at 51. We're bringing 1 million people into the job market every month. We should be creating that 1 million jobs. Instead of doing 12 a year, we're only doing 3 million jobs a year. Let me translate what that means for you, by the way. That means that every hour we should be creating 1,300 jobs on the continent. Every hour. We're only doing 300 at the moment. The 1,000 people that we cannot employ is equivalent to us saying that we might as well go to a school, a primary school with 1,000 kids, and close it. And tell those kids there's no future for you. We should be closing a primary school every hour on this continent unless we fix that problem. We are only on track to meet 2 of the 17 SDGs. Study we did in 2020 showed us that our education system is still unfit for purpose. As we build the human capital to drive this continent, we're still producing job seekers, not job creators. It's insane that you have to go to Oxford to find an MBA that teaches as a module on impact investing, as Oni will tell you. Yet in Africa, where we need impact training more, there's not a single MBA program that I know of that's an impact module training. It's insane. Our business leaders are coming out of school not having a sense of how to tackle social issues on this continent. Okay? Growing public debt. There's almost no country in Africa that does not have a problem with debt at the moment. And we are facing a huge issue with climate. Not because we're big contributors. In fact, Africa contributes only 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, of which 2% is South Africa and 1% is ESCOM. Okay? So our issues are a lot more around climate adaptation. And how do we play in the intersection of climate and health, climate and gender, climate and education, so on and so forth. So to that end, we are facing about $500 billion to $1.3 trillion of SDG financing gap. Where are we going to get money to fund our progress? Aid to Africa is roughly about $40 billion. If you look at startup funding, it's about $5.3 billion. By the way, Africa is the only continent where you have more aid than you have venture capital. Something's not right. We cannot create jobs when we are still depending on that much on grants. Diaspora giving is at $100 billion now. It's 2 times aid. So we turn and we look at capital markets and say, how can we tap in the capital markets where the quantum is enough to sort out not just Africa's needs, but global needs? But the private capital players look at the social sector and they think it's too risky, we don't understand it, we can't make money. But increasingly, more and more studies are showing us that profit and purpose are not mutually exclusive, that you can make money as you do good. And if you've read the study from Standard Chartered called Opportunities 2030, you'll see within those 5 countries, within those 3 SDGs, which is water, energy, and infrastructure, we have about $150 billion of investment opportunities, which give investors opportunities to make money as they do good. But for that to happen, and to be done at the speed and scale that we require, we've got to have philanthropy play a different role. Philanthropic players have to put and make available a lot more catalytic capital that can take the risk to de-risk some of these investments and crowd in private capital. Without that equation happening, we're in trouble. But we also have to explore what else is uniquely African. How else can Africans help themselves with what they do in their day-to-day living? And one of the things we're looking at is we're going to be working very soon with the African Diaspora Network out of the US to look at diaspora savings, not remittances, savings. Okay? And how can those savings be driven into the impact space of the continent? Faith-based giving. Kenyans give $90 million to the church every Sunday. Can you imagine what Nigerians do? Those guys probably solve Ukraine, Russian war, and everything else every Sunday. Okay? But those of us who are older, we grew up with mission hospitals, mission schools. You don't see those anymore today. Yet the people who attend church religiously and tithe every Sunday are young unemployed people. Can the church become a seed investor, early stage investor in entrepreneurial activities by young people? And with innovative instruments like convertible grants, convertible debts, we can look at how those can be turned into investment opportunities that don't totally make the church lose money. We're also working to see how we steer private wealth into the impact space. And that's why tomorrow we're launching Africa's Family Offices Initiative. I also want to say thank you to the family officers who are here, who've taken the plunge to be with us in this fast going around trying to mobilize family offices. I want to thank Bridget from Oxford, with whom we're partnering with under the Ownership Project on this initiative. So I'm super excited about what we could do with that. But we need to do a bit of fact-checking and just looking at ourselves and what are the things we need to change. When people talk to you about aid, please push back. It's just not enough. We cannot do this alone. Whether you're a high net worth individual or a government, a foundation, collaboration is more important today than ever before. Okay? SDGs are a responsibility of the development sector. That mindset has to shift. When the virus came, it didn't choose the private sector and social development sector, no. It finished all of us. Black Lives Matter is another crisis that showed us that these things don't choose. Collective responsibility is an important part of what we do. Profit and purpose are mutually exclusive is a foregone myth. You can do well as you do good. Okay? The fact that people think that the development sector can only consume grants. And that's why we're stuck with organizations that have been in communities for 30 years. And they proudly tell you we've been here for 30 years. And I think, what are you doing for 30 years? Solve the problem and exit. Okay? Let the people you're helping help themselves. Okay? And increasingly, sustainability is driven by profitable models that need to drive the motion that profit in social development is not a sin. You can make money without being exploitative. Creating affordable services, good quality services for people is important, and that's very possible. Okay? This one I want to talk to especially people coming from outside, and more so DFIs and aid agencies. We love you to bring your money, and thank you so much. Thank you, no, honestly, really thank you. But don't just come and do in Africa, come and enable us as well. So that when you leave us better than when you find us. And dependence is not what success looks like. When you find an aid agency, a DFI and an ODA aid agency from the same country coming to collaborate on a project, and there's not an African sitting around the table to understand how that project works so that when you exit, we can carry forward the benefits of the project, that is not right. And we have to be championing for seats on the table around some of these conversations. It's not acceptable. But to the Africans in the room, impact capital comes from Africans. That mindset has to change from foreigners. We've got to have skin in the game. We've got to stand up and be counted and drive a lot more local capital into these initiatives. We've lived the problem, we've got to live the solution. We've got to change this mindset that anything around impact, there are other people to deal with, not us. We're just recipients. That has to change. So, what am I asking you guys to do? I'm asking you guys to be constructively and collaboratively impatient. Okay? We have no time to go slowly. We have no time. Others, those cars you're driving today, if we can't create jobs for young people, will not be safe for you anymore. We have no time. And so I'm asking of you, please, the most important thing, let's all grow together as impact players. Let's learn to unlearn and relearn. Solutions are changing by the day. Don't just talk, execute. And it's more important to get started than to get it perfect. Too many times we want to analyze over and over again. Innovate, okay? I always tell people Africa is a sandbox for impact in the world, okay? We are blessed with opportunities. You know, this is when someone comes to your house and tells you it's time to go wash your hands. When you're eating, people must let you eat and finish your food. Etemero, I hear you, I'm sorry, I'll be done in a bit. I always tell people we are blessed with what 20 years ago were embarrassing problems are exciting impact opportunities today. No one has the kind of opportunities to test new models, new products, new services than we do. My vision is 10 years from today, the Ivy League of impact should be Africa. No one is better placed than we are to do that. Okay? Leave egos and logos out. Let's work together. Let's do it better. Challenge tradition. The minute you're in a meeting and someone says, that's not how we do it here, time out. Okay? And lastly, we need to keep talking about gatherings like this. I think are very important for us to move forward. Our commitment to you is very simple. We'll do our best to help you connect to each other. Sessions like this are the beginning of what that will mean to your peers across regions, to your peers globally. For those who don't know, we are part of a full global network that includes networks in Asia, Latin America, and Europe. We have Kurt here from Avpa who's joined us. And part of our job is to see how can we help Africa learn better and faster from other regions. We'll help you, we'll help you learn. We're all learning. And I keep saying, and Oni who is probably one of the most informed people in impact in this part of the world and, teaches in big schools, will appreciate the fact that she's always doing research and adding more stuff because we're all learning in this space. We don't know enough yet, to be able to claim to be giants. And we shall offer you what we can in terms of supporting your growth. Now, this clicker, it's not my fault. We have to look at how we offer opportunities for you to influence what you're coming up with. There's a lot of innovation happening in this room. How do you help more people learn from what you're doing, and how do you scale what innovations are coming out? I also want to take an opportunity to announce that with the 4 other sister networks, we've just created the Global Alliance for Impact Networks. This is a network of our sister partners to try and see how we can accelerate mobilization of capital, and we're already looking to invest as soon as we possibly can. And this is my ask to you, okay? Please join us. This is your network. It's not just ours. And let's learn together, let's grow together, but most importantly, as I said, let's make Africa global capital. And in closing, constructively, collaboratively, impatient. Accelerate and reshape how we do this as you go to bed every day. And when you talk to your kids and on your deathbed, would that matter? Would that matter on your deathbed? What is the privilege that people around you know for what you've got and what you're contributing? Would that matter? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Frank Aswani, thank you very much for those very powerful words. Very reflective. Will it matter? Will it matter that you were born on this planet? I think if I'm going to leave here with anything, is to ask myself that question tonight and every day. Will it matter? When you die, what's going to be in your epitaph? I don't want to sound morbid tonight, but anyway. Thank you. Thank you very much for those words. So, moving forward, we have a session, Bayer Foundation Women Empowerment. I'd like to call on Jana Obden-Winkel. Did I get that correctly? Please, can you come on stage? Thank you. A round of applause. She's the Program and Communications Manager, Bayer Foundation and Corporate Giving. She will be the moderator of the session. And secondly, I'd like to call on stage Sarah Marata. She is the Program Lead, Unknown Group. She's two moderators.
Yes, we are.
So please come on stage. Then.
Thank you.
So, eye contact.
In the upcoming 45 minutes, you're going to hear about 5 outstanding and impatient female entrepreneurs. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here to celebrate the winners of the Women Empowerment Award 2023 in the Africa region. Here with me, I have Jana Obden-Winkel. I am Sarah Marata. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be hosting this session. Sarah Marata, Program Manager at Unknown Group. We are based in the Netherlands, venture capital and business development firm, and a very proud partner of Bayer Foundation. Everything we do it to fuel founders who fix the future, such as these outstanding female entrepreneurs you'll get to meet in the upcoming 45 minutes. Jana, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sarah. I think my mic is not working, so I take yours. Thank you so much. Thanks, AVPA, for having us today. It's a pleasure. sorry. Now everyone is awake, I hope so. So, my name is Jana. I'm working for the Bayer Foundation as a program manager. And let me introduce Bayer Foundation really, really quickly, because it's not about us, it's about those beautiful, those really, really talented ladies in the front. We are the corporate foundation of the Bayer AG. You might know the Bayer company from some headache medicine like aspirin, but we are the corporate foundation and we are in social innovation. So we are supporting enterprises and NGOs which have innovative business models, which don't depend on charities, with funds, with non-financial support. And we do this by focusing on SDG 2 and 3, so zero hunger, good health and well-being, and with a focus on women, because we really believe in women as key change makers. And we do this in the Global South. So we are here for celebrating our winners from Africa, but we also are active together with the venture philanthropy networks in Latin America, in Asia. And that's, I think, really nice from Frank that you mentioned, the collaboration that has to happen across the different venture philanthropy networks. And we're happy to give a stage to the people who really change and drive the change, and give them the visibility they need so they can fulfill their business dreams and help the SDGs to be fulfilled.
And where do those winners come from, Jana?
So we had more than 500 applications from all over Africa, and today we have 3 talented ladies from Kenya, 1 from Ghana, and also 1 from Nigeria. Unfortunately, South African visa offices didn't make it easy for her to enter the country. So she will be with us virtually, so we will still give her the stage. And I think AVPA was also part of this program. That's the reason why we are here. So let me also ask Frank Aswani. He was a judge in selecting all those talented women to the stage. So Frank, I see you there, over there. Give it a round of applause for Frank.
So Frank, I think you've been a veteran being a jury member of the Women Empowerment Award. Not the first time, I think it's the second time that we're counting with the help of AVPA, and it is a pleasure. I think I would like to ask you, how was the whole experience and what would you highlight from this award?
Yeah, I mean, I think what really impressed me and surprised me about the winners is, first of all, healthcare is not a sector that you find a lot of entrepreneurship. It's seen as a public good sector. People tend to think that's the place that the government plays. So it was amazing to see the range of innovations that are addressing really down grassroots problems in the context. Secondly, the quality of the entrepreneurs was amazing. You guys really gave us a hard time to make a decision. But credit to you for the work that you've done.
Thank you so much. And what are you looking forward to today? What do you want to hear from those entrepreneurs?
I think it's both about recognition for the hard work that you've done, but also the inspiration to others that you create. Your presence here and your recognition for what you've done will hopefully get many other girls to do what you're doing. And I hope you don't stop here. Your responsibility is huge. There are many more people wanting to hang on to your pants as you climb the ladder. So please pull as many people as you can.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
So much. And I would say, with a further ado, we shed the light on the people who matter most.
Indeed, and thanks a lot also, Jana. We'll be back on stage to give out the awards. A clap for Jana op den Winkel. Well, at least we managed some technical issues, but we managed to do the introduction as short as possible, because I like to spend most of the time on stage for our female entrepreneurs. Without further ado, I would like to start introducing our first winner. Madbi Dalal, please join me on stage. Founder of PadMat. Let's do, maybe you go there and I'll handle, because this one works.
Thank you.
Hi, Madbi. Does it work?
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome. Madbi, can you please tell the audience what is PadMat all about and what is the work you're doing there?
PadMat is a social business. We're based in Kenya, and we are committed to improving menstrual dignity through education, through empowering marginalized communities, and through manufacturing of products which have a positive environmental and health impact.
And Matthew, what are the challenge right now? So why PadMat is so relevant in Kenya?
So in particular in Kenya, we have statistics which are incredibly heart-wrenching. 65% of the girls and women in Kenya cannot afford sanitary pads. That's what's bringing period poverty. And also 4.9 days are missed per month of school-going girls, and also disposable pads contribute to plastic pollution. They take 500 to 800 years to decompose. And any menstruator in their lifetime takes about 18,000 single-use products, which is about 60 kilograms of waste.
Thanks a lot. Matthew, can you please take a seat and we'll be back with you.
Thank you.
Our next winner is June Mushuku, founder of Plan B Foods. Please join me on stage. Hi, June.
Hi, hello.
Thanks for being here, for traveling all the way to Cape Town. June, can you please introduce the work and the impact of Plan B Foods?
Yeah, so Plan B is a social enterprise based in Kenya, and we manufacture high-quality, nutritious food products targeting low-income and underserved communities. We also do this in partnership with rural women who are usually, as we know, left out of many profitable value chains.
So we can buy time, you know.
And why? Why did you start Plan B Foods?
I would say I've always had a passion for promoting child health in Africa, but I was particularly, inspired by my mother, who was a single, rural, smallholder woman. So I witnessed firsthand how much she struggled to provide for us. And if it wasn't for my uncle, intervening, I would not have received something as basic as an education. I would not be standing here today. So what we've done, the inspiration for doing what we're doing is that we have placed women at the center of a value chain, thereby, increasing opportunities for women like my mother.
Thanks so much for the work you've done. Now we're going to do a little break in bringing winners upstairs, because unfortunately we have one of our 5 winners, Jocelyn Agbo. She's based in Nigeria, founded a farm on wheels, and I forgot to say hi to the ones online. So I hope that Jocelyn, you're there, and you're definitely here with us in spirit, so thanks a lot. And Jocelyn sent us a video so that she could introduce herself. Okay, she could introduce herself. The company, apparently, on the technical side, they're mentioning that there's an issue with the video. I hope to go back to it at the end of the presentation. Then, let's move on. Jocelyn, thank you so much. Farm on Wheels. If we can go back one slide, and then I'll just quickly introduce Farm on Wheels, just in case. Social enterprise based in Nigeria that works with the smallholder and rural farmers, enabling them to increase their production, their yield. They do that in various ways. They do that by trainings. They do that enabling technology for those farmers and creating communities of farmers. Then, please, I would like to see you take out your phones so that you can link it in Jocelyn, because Ken cannot be here, and this is not fair. You'll be having a lot of time to network with the other ladies. I would really like for you to network with Jocelyn online. Thanks. Our next winner is Maus Sejison, founder of Soma Life. Big round of applause. Hi, Maus.
Hello, Sarah.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you too?
Doing amazing, don't you see?
It's good to be here.
Thank you. It's amazing to have you here. Can you please introduce Soma Life, the work you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. Though I'm here taking all the applause, I'm actually leading a team of young and ambitious young people in Ghana who are committed to breaking rural poverty. So at Soma Life, we are creating transparency and traceability in the shea value chain. So shea nuts, shea butter, and we connect them to food and cosmetic manufacturers who use our traceability data for their impact reportings. So the women, through this, we are able to increase their income. We are also able to give them some conservation skills to be able to reforest the shea value chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. And don't leave me yet. Don't leave me there. I'm more curious. Are we curious a bit more? Would also like to know which impact have you already created with Soma Life?
Good. So we registered the business in 2020. At that time, I was the marketing person, the operations person. I was everything. And that year, we were able to connect 500 women in one of the poorest districts in Ghana. Fast forward in 2021, we had trained and connected over 2,000 women shea producers to market, where they earn 18% extra income above the local market. Last year, we expanded our reach to 7,000 women shea producers in northern Ghana, and they earn more than 22% extra income above the local market. And we are so happy that the Bayan Foundation also share in our mission and has been able to recognize us for this thing we are doing.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Martha. And last but definitely not least, we have Marianne Chishanka, winner of the Women Empowerment Award and founder of Agritech Analytics. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Sarah.
You look stunning tonight. Well, all of you do, eh? Please don't take
Thank
it
you.
wrong.
Thank you.
Can you please tell me what you ate for breakfast? Now, can you please introduce what the work you do at Agritech Analytics?
Yeah, so at Agritech Analytics, we leverage the use of AI-powered satellite imagery data analytics and IoT sensors to reverse soil health, soil degradation, and detect crop pests and diseases to increase yields for smallholder farmers.
And what are you currently busy with, Marianne, in Agritech?
So we are currently busy working with 3,880 smallholder farmers. We are helping them increase on their yields by 57% for dealing with us for 3 to 6 months, and over 75% increase by working with us for over a year. And we are also helping them reduce on their input costs by 57%.
I think if this was an exam, our audience would not keep up with the numbers. How many farmers? How many? Hey, yeah, we got it. And we will have a lot more time to talk with Marianne and get to know these winners more heavily. Thank you so much. Can you please sit here? Thank you. Now we're going to start our panel introduction, and for that, we need you, and you, the ones at home, as well. We have some normal questions on our program, of course, but we really want to make this as interesting and relevant for you as possible. So we would like to hear your questions. I will have this magic tablet where I will receive all the questions that you can ask via the Mentimeter. This is now where I am a TV presenter. Mentimeter, please, the ones online, menti.com, and introduce the code 66472987. In the meantime, I'm going to come and join you, ladies. Let's see if we can fix the microphone situation, please. Okay, let's take a seat then. I would like to start by asking you, first of all, how are you and how does it feel to be one of the winners of the Women Empowerment Award? And yeah, June, you have the microphone, so I think...
It's been a truly, amazing experience. And for us, it's validating, when you're down, busy working, you don't really think about things, but it's been a validating experience. We are energized, myself and my team, to keep doing what we're doing and to make real impact on the ground, because we work with women, rural women, farmers in the grassroots, and we can already see the impact our initiative or our work is having on the ground. So it's been amazing.
It's also amazing having you being part of the award. Can we echo that, or do you have a total different experience?
No, I can totally echo that. It's about validation. It's also about others believing in you, but more importantly, us believing in ourselves is a great thing, because sometimes as women, we kind of skip that step. So this has been a great experience. Thank you.
No,
I think it's not just
well.
about impact, it's also about the bigger picture.
Yeah, and let's talk about that big picture. And to talk about the big picture, we first need to start with the challenges. I would like, I think, Mausa, you have a list of those. Which challenges do you face as a female entrepreneur?
Well, good question. Raising patient capital has been a challenge for me personally. The trend over the past 3 years shows that there's been a significant growth in funding for startups in Ghana, but the distribution tells a different story. Only 8% of that went to women-led businesses, and I think that is unfair when we look at the opportunities available and the impact we can make, and the fact that there's no support is quite challenging. And sometimes when you are fortunate to get the attention of an investor, you come across as too ambitious. So you need this extra toughness compared to my male counterpart to be able to convince them that this is doable, because I was alone able to take my business from that level before any other team member joined. So if I have this number of people in my team, it means I can do more. So trust that we can do this. And sometimes you are asked to go back, to go and reduce your projections and all that, which can be quite time-consuming. Aside it being daunting, it's quite time-consuming. So I feel that we need more investors to be quite flexible with their requirements, and also being willing to believe that though we are ambitious, we can actually do what we put out there.
Thanks a lot, Mausa. I would also go in this line, on the line of investments. There are a lot of questions. You're very worried about money in this room and online, of course. So I would like to ask Marianne, one of our audience questions. What type of capital would be most useful? Yeah, and we'll share like good sisters. Which type of capital would be more useful for you to scale your organization?
So we would need, you need the amount?
Do we need the amount? Yes, I hear some yeses, so yeah, give us the amount.
Yeah, so we would need $500,000 to be able to complete on our online interface for the smallholder farmers. That will reduce the pain of onboarding them manually. We'll also be able to integrate local weather stations with our system so that we are able to give more accurate weather forecasting for the farmers for planning. And we would definitely need to go a step higher, because realizing that being a woman in a tech field, which is patriarchal, requires a lot more work to validate your existence in that field. And we want to thank Bayer Foundation for giving us this platform to be able to showcase that we are actually up to the task. So getting that 500,000 would really take us an extra mile.
Please take some notes, our audience. I would like, and we stay in capital, but thank God some of our audience is also wondering, and Matbi, I think this is a question for you, because we've been talking about this these last days. In regard to scaling, what would you consider more important, human capital or finance capital, and how do the both marry?
I think for us, as PadMad, I think it's a bit of a mix, because we're working on different aspects of impact. So, for example, I'll just quickly tell you the impact is the attendance in school. We've increased 2 million days of school attendance per year. We've also increased 33 green jobs, and we're working with empowering women and some men who would generally not get any employment, teen mums, incarcerated women, and also ex-prisoners, HIV positive women also who work. So just to be able to increase that, we need a lot of networking. And most importantly, we've prevented 58 million single-use products going into the landfill. So the answer to your question is a bit of both, actually, to help us bring this social stigma away and to really help us scale.
Thanks, Matti. Mausa, to give the capital one break, we will definitely be back. Our audience is also curious, and me too. What was the biggest hurdle you had when starting out? You mentioned, right, that you started out alone and you made it to a certain point. So what were the biggest hurdles you had there?
So when I was starting, I was a field officer by myself. So the first thing you have to do, because we work with farmers, you have to go into a community to get them to buy into, or the chiefs, who are mainly men, to allow your initiatives into their community. And sometimes when I get there, I was alone. So, hello, I want to speak to your members. They go like, you, what do you have to offer? And even some of them don't want to talk to you directly because you are a woman. They rather want you to speak to a man, then the man will translate, or tell them, though we are all speaking the same language, tell them that, oh, she says she's bringing this initiative, we think it's great, blah, blah, blah. So that has been the challenge for me. So I had to coin my language, or should I say my message, in the way that also puts them, or makes them feel comfortable, like tells them that, look, if these women get money, if money ends up in their pocket, they are going to help the family. The men's burden will reduce. So you have to put the men in the pictures.
Do some pitching.
Exactly. So that is how I was able to get some of these leaders to listen to me, because they, even till now, when I go to the field to visit my field officers, I go with the driver, and the field officer will go like, that's our boss. And then they will look at the driver, because they're not sure I'm the one. Maybe I'm too small, and I'm also a female. So those are some of the challenges that I faced when I started.
Yeah. And I can assure you, Mausa, you're not too small.
Thank you.
June, I'm also wondering, on your side, I can also assume it was not a smooth walk in the park. And which were the main challenges? Do you also have experiences like Mausa?
Yeah, I think every woman in business shares some of those challenges. But really, being in manufacturing, it's super, very capital intensive. And just the initial capital that we needed to start off was quite a huge amount. We have a very big vision. So the challenge was just, getting that capital and approaching people, even, and raising the initial capital that we needed. Another challenge was mainly, I would say, sorry.
No? Which one is another challenge? Marianne, help out June here.
So another challenge would be people looking at you and thinking that whatever it is that you're offering would have been done better by a male counterpart. So I'll give an example of a community I went to in Kenya, and they were actually very affected by hunger and drought because there was a lot of pests and diseases. And I went to them and told them that I had a solution for them. And one of the leaders said, if it is coming from a woman, then we will not take it. So I had to go back and re-strategize as an entrepreneur. So I thought, because we have a co-founder who's male, we would send him the following week. And funny thing, they took up the solution. So it was all about being female or being male. I would have easily said their loss, but I felt their pain, so I really needed to help them. So we had to get another strategy, and it goes on like that most of the time. Most of the time, you'll even have an investor who's interested in your company, but when they find that the CEO is a lady, they're like, could you prove, But at the end of the day, it gets better, because we know what we're expecting and we work around it.
Thanks, Marianne, and I'm very sorry you have to cope with this almost every day of your work. Now our audience is also curious about another challenge that are not only female entrepreneurs face, but a lot of impact entrepreneurs, which is regarding social firms in Africa, the difficulty that they have in measuring that impact. So how do you overcome these challenges? How do you measure your impact? Who would like to go? June? Awesome.
No, I think I've organized my thoughts a bit.
Okay, perfect. Do you want to go back to the other question or stick on the impact measurement?
I feel like most of those challenges are shared across board. Gender-related biases are there. But going to your current question on impact. So what we've done right from the start is that we work with a network of smallholder farmers who we have organized into groups. Supply groups. So what we've done is that we have created a system, a digital system, that is able to collect the data. So we look at things as you know, the farm size. We look at social, economic indicators. And then over time, we'll be able to track and monitor exactly numbers, real numbers, what kind of impact that we're having. On another type of indicator that we collect is obviously impact on nutrition. And we are looking at indicators such as metrics, such as number of products that we've sold. And nutrition is very hard to measure, so over time, long impact will be able to compare against national data. But we have an outlet where we've installed again a system that is able to collect all this data. So I feel like right from the start, we have a really good foundation for collecting the data and being able to monitor that over time.
Awesome. That sounds like figured it out. Mau said, oh, yes, please, Marianne, I saw you stealing the microphone. Then, yes, tell us, how do you measure your impact?
Okay, so we use the rebuying percentage. We use a leasing model for a solution. So the farmer is able to get a solution by paying $3.5 a month. So for us, impact measurement is the rebuying, the willingness to come back the following month. It means that they already see value in what we are offering them. And we also look at the financial institutions that are able to offer our smallholder farmers with loan facilities using our yield prediction model as collateral for loans. We have seen the numbers going up. Currently, we have 98 farmers who've received financial help, financial capabilities from financial institutions using our yield prediction model, and we are looking to growing that. So seeing that the financial institutions can actually use our yield prediction as collateral to the smallholder farmer is actually impact enough for us.
And it's all about learning, right? And failing fast and re-measuring. Would you like to add something on the impact measuring, Matvi? Or I can throw another question because they're piling up on the audience. Thank you so much for that.
Either is okay.
Yeah, we throw another one in the pool. Awesome. The next one, we go back to capital. That's our urgent curiosity of our audience. And now it's going to be a bit of a survey. Does your current funding come more from Africa or outside Africa? What do we have? Hands for Africa, the four of you? Hands for outside Africa? 1, 2, 3. Okay, can you elaborate on that, Madvi?
So yeah, most of our funding comes from outside of Africa, although there is a great awareness within Kenya itself. So we have partners, but most of our long-term partners happen to be outside of Africa, actually. And we work on impact together. So basically, if there's a company working with water solutions in Kenya, we are working in collaboration with them. So it's an ongoing project. So we've served over 50,000 girls and women on products and 35,000 boys and men as part of the education. So partners which already focus on that are long-term.
And which type of partners, Madvi?
So impact water solutions or companies working on FGM. So basically whoever works with the same kind of age group.
Okay. Who said that the capital comes from Africa? Outside?
100% outside Africa.
Okay. And how do you feel about that and why is it?
I think it's not cool. We need more black money, if I'm allowed to put it that way.
You're definitely allowed.
Yes. So I found out that the outside funding in my case has been more favorable. The attempts are okay, and the interest rates are also good compared to the local. Even when you look at the banks, our bank is around. I think the interest rate is about close to 30%. That's taking all my margins away if I have to take that loan for a year. So that has been the thing. But thankfully, I want to be quick to add that I think APSA in Ghana, they currently have something around 10%, which we are working on with them. So that will be the first debt financing that we will receive locally if we get to seal it.
We're all hoping for that.
Yes.
Thanks, Mause. And I've been told that our session is to start wrapping up, which is very sad because we have over 35 questions. So please, these ladies are not going anywhere. They're going to stay here with you until the item 7. I loved that. So we will be here, ask all your questions afterwards. And before we wrap up, one of the questions that most popped up, and I think it's also the most relevant one, is what do you need and how can this audience help you? And now you're also on the spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I got into the room, I think I first met the Bill Gates Foundation rep here, and I said, okay, I'm coming to you for money. So it's good to know that this room is full of people who are holding my money, so I'm coming for you. So this year, we are raising $2 million to fund our impact plan to even Burkina Faso. We are piloting around Burkina Faso this year as well. And we are looking at debt, equity, and grants. So I would like to speak to you. So please allow me to come around. Thank you.
Who has some money for Mause? Some hands that she can come and hand you down? Oh, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't see enough hands. Next one in line, Matvi. What do you need?
We need 1.1 million, which we're raising. That's for marketing and also to bring out the products and to increase our research and development, to increase our product range, and also to be able to take the product outside of Kenya, a little bit more logistic problems. And more importantly, we're looking for foundations who are in Kenya who we can partner with to make this product more accessible to buy.
Thanks, Matvi. John, how can this audience help you? So far, all about capital, but you were also quite concerned about capital, so we have a match.
Yeah. So at the moment, we have a round targeting to raise 150,000 USD. We have commitments of half of that, so we have a funding gap of around $75,000.
Thanks, John. Piling up the requests. I hope you're taking notes. Last but not least, Marianne, what do you need? Can I assume?
Yeah, so we are looking for expertise.
Oh, wow.
We are also looking for funding. Yeah, and mentors who can actually help us take our organization to the other level. I think they can already feel the impact that we are having. We have the projections, right? We want to get 15,000 farmers next year, 112,500 in the next 2 years, and also expand to other African countries. Yeah.
Thanks, Marianne. You make me dizzy with all the numbers. I need to say I'm here. But I hope I saw some noting down. So the lady over there, if someone didn't get the numbers, she is writing everything down. Ladies, now it's time to celebrate, which is what we do best. We will do a quick round of award handing. Is it the word? Is it the word? Awarding. We will do some awarding and some celebrating. For that, first of all, we need to stand up. We will stay on one side of the stage. And to do so, we will, of course, invite our partner, Bayer Foundation, and I would like to invite on stage Jan op den Winkel and Stefan Wilgen to come and hand in the awards. Jana, which award do we have here?
So I have the beautiful award for Matvi. Maybe we have to explain also what it comes. So it's a 25,000 euro catalytic grant. And it's also some non-financial support. So being here, we want to introduce all our winners to the right people. And we also have some coaching, mentoring, and bringing the company to the next stage. So thanks so much. Congratulations,
Round of applause for Matvi.
So the only male. Oh no, that was Frank. So we also have Frank, Stefan on the stage. So my lovely colleague.
Yeah, thanks. I'm only here for the quota, so it's. So I have an award here for June, which includes the same value and money, but to be honest, I think what we have here is priceless. So thanks everyone for being here, and the reason why we put these women on here on the stage is so that you can run after them to give them your money so they don't have to come after you. So here you go, June.
Congrats, June.
Where's the photographer? Over there. All right. Next one.
Next one in 9, who's it going to be? Mawusa, Marianne?
Mawusa. So
Mawusa.
we're going to Ghana. So congratulations, Mawusa. Thanks for being here with us. Thanks for sharing so openly what are your challenges. That's not taken for granted. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And last, but definitely not least, again.
No, not least at all. I think there was a very important statement that Frank made when he was up here saying that you are going up the ladder and there's a lot of women entrepreneurs going to be clinging to your pants. And I think even also male entrepreneurs, just in general, I think it's just encouraging to see how mountains can be moved by single people. And here you have another lighthouse of future impact on this continent. So congratulations, Marianne.
And then I think it is time to wrap up before we get told off. So I would like to ask Jana, any closing words to wrap up?
Yeah, just a big thank you. Thanks for AVPA that we are allowed to be here, that we are allowed to spotlight those talented entrepreneurs. And I'm really looking forward to our collaboration because finally there is now a network, or there is a network active and growing in Africa, and we're really looking forward to all the collaborations and seeing, yeah, those talented entrepreneurs also flowing through the network with the help of you. Thanks so much.
We're coming for you. Thanks a lot and have a great day. See you later.
And I think now back to Etemore. We're leaving the stage.
Of applause, otherwise this is a bit weird. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You did very well and you kept the time. So I think I'll give you my own award. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the Bayan Foundation Women Empowerment Award. That's how to do it. Women, come on, a round of applause. This is one way that AVPA is deepening its work across the continent through collaborations with organizations like yours, and also ensuring that we make the connections with capital providers and with enterprises across, Africa. So I want to say, AVPA, well done. Well done. We're looking for more collaborations, and particularly for enterprises who are saying that they do not have access to African money. You can get it here through this network. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to Bayan Foundation Women Empowerment and to AVPA. So now we want to check the polls of everyone in the room. And if you have your mobile phones, please, can you scan that Slido, please? Let's do that. Have you got your devices, your phone? Let's scan, let's scan. So you want to check how you're doing. Want to check the temperature in the room. So please, I'm seeing some people not bringing out their phones. We charge for not doing that. So please get out your mobile phones. And let's do this little exercise. And I will allow you go for a break, if not. Okay. So which country are you joining us from? So let's see the countries. 9 participants typing. Good. Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, yay, my country. Netherlands, Zimbabwe, UK, Senegal, South Africa, and USA. Interesting. Russia, great. Lithuania, Germany, Senegal, great. South Africa, we're still in the middle, okay. Great. Spain, Ghana, great. South Africa, Zambia, France, interesting, Botswana. So this is truly global, and this is becoming very interesting, yeah. Any other country? Oh, Egypt, yes. So can we go to the next poll? Let's see, let's move. Okay, which part of the ecosystem do you represent? Investors deploying grants, investors deploying equity. Oh, okay, social entrepreneur, I see ya, I see you. Okay, at the bottom there, there's no one. Investor deploying debt, oh, 2%. Investors deploying equity, 13%. Okay, the numbers are changing. Ecosystem builder, yay. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great, great, great. Okay, we have more ecosystem builders here. Okay, that's why I fit into as well. So can we do the next poll, please? Are you looking forward? Okay, what are you looking forward to most today? Okay, let's hear. This looks really exciting. Oh, 20 participants typing. Drinks. Networking, celebrate. There's nothing wrong with drinks. Okay. Meeting people and learning stuff. Oh, dancing. I like that. Why anonymous? I like to see who likes dancing. Yeah. Okay. Partnership, conversation, networking. Item number 7. I like that. Learning. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is really exciting. So it's now time for us to pause and have some drinks. Light lunch, please, or light break, I beg your pardon. Can we do this in 10 minutes? Just comfort break. Please go grab something to drink and please come back. And those who need to use the restroom can do that. And 10 minutes, we are back here for the next session. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a fantastic audience so far. Thank you. We need to move quite quickly. So can some please help us call everyone in here? Okay. Okay. I wouldn't say this is the moment we've been waiting for, right? But it's another exciting session. And it's a panel session. And the title is Leveraging Catalytic Capital to Crowd in Private Capital into Social Investments. The panel session is on how catalytic capital can be leveraged to crowd in private capital into social impact by de-risking social investments. And we have moderating the panel session, Oni Peyton Powers. Please, round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. So while she's coming up, she says she likes to describe herself using 4 A's: academic, author, advisor, and angel investor. Please take your seats on a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. So next, I like to start with the woman first, but let's go with the man now this time around. He's Elias Masilela. He's the chairman, Sandam, and chairman of the National Task Force. Well, it's National Advisory Board on Impact Investing. They need to cancel that on the program. So, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Elias. He's the managing director of a family investment business, Boomer Investment Holding, and chairman of DNA Economics, Salem Capital Harvest, as well as the national. He's also the chair of the National Advisory Board for Impact Investing in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause again to Elias Masilela. And last but not the least, I'd like to call on Amalate. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Impact Investing Ghana. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Ama. And now I'd like to hand over to Oni to take over the conversation.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming back. You win extra points. You get grades of A, 95, whatever you're looking for today, for coming back from drinks. So we are going to have a conversation around catalytic capital here. I'm really pleased to have Elias here and Amma to discuss what is a very important part of the ecosystem in impact investing and venture philanthropy in Africa. So I thought at first it might be helpful if I defined catalytic capital. So some of you may or may not have actually heard the term. It's an interesting one because it's a relatively new term for a relatively old concept. The idea, and I've copied actually because the MacArthur Foundation would skin me alive if I got the definition wrong, so I have copied it down here. But really the idea of catalytic capital is capital that steps in where it's needed. And that's what I think about catalytic capital. The actual definition as defined by the MacArthur Foundation is patient, risk-tolerant, concessionary, and flexible. Now, personally, I don't like the term concessionary because concessionary to what? Many of the times what we're doing is building new markets. We are creating what is the market. And so who's to say it's below market rate? If we don't know what the market is, then what is market rate? And market rate for who? For whom, over what time period, and at what value. So I like to think of catalytic capital really as the right type of capital for the right time and for the right organization creating social impact. Now, that may mean it looks different from traditional capital. It may not be equity. It may not be debt. It may not be grants. And if you would like a primer on things that are not equity or grants, I would suggest my book, I don't even know the name of my own book, Adventure Finance. So, I'm going to start with you. What does catalytic capital mean to you, and why do you think it's important in the African ecosystem?
Thanks, Oni. It's such a great pleasure to be here and to see so many beautiful African attires. You are all looking very gorgeous. I just had to say that. Catalytic capital means that we get to unlock local financing. In Frank's address, he talked about the need to have local financing be a key part of financing impact across Africa. And that's important because it comes with local knowledge, local networks. We have $30 billion of pension funding in Nigeria, for example. In Ghana, Nigeria's little brother, we have $5 billion of financing, and that financing needs to be unlocked. There are very practical reasons why pension funds in these two countries aren't trooping en masse into vehicles that could deliver impact. And in our engagement with pension funds in Ghana, there were things around being able to assess the level of risk, about having, as a regulated industry, industry-grade vehicles that they could comfortably invest in, because these are people's pensions. They don't want to make a loss. Catalytic capital could come in to offer, for example, de-risking, to make it more comfortable for these pensions to participate. It could come in to design. It could come in to create new institutions that could help with risk rating. It could come in to do all these different things that could actually unlock the funding.
Perfect. And speaking of pension fund and large assets, of large amounts of capital, Elias? Please talk to us about what you think as the chairman of a large institutional capital holder. What does catalytic capital mean to you, and why is it important?
I will not represent any of the people that I associate with because they don't think like me. I see catalytic capital as capital that cares. Capital that looks for problems to find solutions. Capital that adapts to market cycles, that also adapts to social and economic changes. But having said that, those of us who did a bit of chemistry and physics will realize that that sounds like an oxymoron. If you're a catalyst, you're not supposed to change, you're not supposed to adapt, you remain the same. But in this case, it is adapting because it wants to also survive. The truth of capital is that it will only have multiple lives or multiple generations if the stability where it operates. In our environments with growing social instability, growing volatility in the political environment, the likelihood is if we don't invest properly as capital, the assets that we think we're looking after will go up in flames tomorrow. So that's why we have to adapt. In the South African context, I can imagine that those of you who've been here for a day or two, you must have heard of the N3, the famous N3, where they ban trucks like Simba chips. Now, if capital doesn't respond to that mood in society, the likelihood is that the trucking industry will be non-existent in the next few years. And the question is, where do we go? Talking about pension funds, it's very interesting that a number of our pension funds, both in South Africa and elsewhere in the continent, is that they do not have the vision nor the capacity to think like catalytic investors. Why that is the case, in the South African context, the way in which pension funds are structured, or the boards, the way in which they're structured, 50% are representing employer, the other 50% are representing employees. Half the time, those that are representing employees cannot even read a balance sheet. The decisions get made by those representing the employer. And because of the affinity to the employer, the likelihood is that they are going to be short-termist in their thinking, and they are going to make decisions that favor the employer rather than favoring the economy. the best allocator of capital is the one that thinks of the economy first before thinking of the bottom line. A reverse of that is unsustainable. We are talking about the financial sector strife of way back in as far as 1998, still facing us in the face today. It's because we have not lent as money allocators. And I don't know how long it's going to take for us to lend properly. The hat that I would like to wear sitting here is that of impact investors. The kinds of people who think of not the invisible hand. For those who went to school and did some bit of economics, we talk of the invisible heart, where the sequence with which you make decisions is such that you start with what change you want to bring about before you decide what returns you're going to get. But that does not mean you're compromising returns in the long term. You're just guaranteeing being in business for a very long time, for many generations. Thank you, Chair.
I mean, I feel like having Elias and Frank in one room is just, I mean, it's almost too much to have, eh? I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. All right, so let's talk about some examples. You know, I think we can generalize a lot about what needs to be done in the industry, but how have you seen catalytic capital really have an impact and create both social change and environmental and economic change?
Thanks. We did a study in Ghana looking at catalytic capital initiatives that were launched between 2004 and 2021. Catalytic capital that was expected to unlock financing for SMEs. We found about 172 of such, we call them schemes. They were investing, they were moving or spending money about $1.73 billion over that period. And of that, about 1.1 billion was actual investments going to SMEs. It was supposed to be catalytic, meaning it's supposed to unlock third-party investments. But only of those 100 and something schemes we looked at, only about 10 actually tracked the third-party investments that they unlocked. So that was interesting to see that all this work was done by different organizations, but there wasn't a strong commitment to actually track the impact over time, because the unlocking of capital many times would happen over time. There were many interesting things when we did that research. The first thing was flexibility, and it goes a little bit to Elias's point. You couldn't start off with an investment thesis and say, we will do this and this and this in this sector, and capital will be unlocked, because these were new and innovative sectors, new and innovative vehicles. So you needed to, the ones that did well in their creation, took into account the fact that there were a lot of unknowns and built that flexibility to learn and change and adapt to be able to unlock capital. The other thing they did was that they were very intentional in engaging the capital that they wanted to unlock right from the very beginning. They were very intentional in engaging the key stakeholders right from the very beginning. And so they were able to take the learning into the design of the vehicle or the program and to work with those third-party stakeholders. A few practical examples. One of them was a state fund of funds. Its goal was to create the venture capital industry, which in 2004 was non-existent. Around the same time is when our private pensions also started. And it did a number of things in the early days, investing in different kinds of fund managers, doing fund manager training, some of which didn't work. But it was pretty transparent about what didn't work. And then it tried again with new models. At the time that we were doing the study, it had settled on a model that worked, of working with fund managers that had significant skin in the game, being able to come in with a first loss tranche and de-risk them, and then work with other ecosystem builders to build a pipeline. And so it was interesting to see that the goal had not changed over the time period, but the success had increased significantly because of the commitment to learn and to grow, in spite of a lot of things, including politics and other things that happen when you are a state institution. We also saw another example that was, it was run by an international development agency. Typically, they struggle to be able to invest. And so this was a performance-based, catalytic capital can come in different ways. So this had a mixture of performance-based incentive to incentivize moving capital from into a particular specific serial. That was there was not enough capital there. And it worked. They were able to de-risk and get commercial banks to begin to fund in a sector they were not financing. Though those kinds of program designs, if you're not increasing the pool of funding, you're basically, it's like playing musical chairs. Yeah. You're moving money from here to somewhere else, which is great. But we have an SME financing gap of $331 billion plus. So the catalytic capital that we really need is capital that moves from being regular capital into being truly catalytic in ways that expands the pie significantly for the real economy, which are vastly small and medium enterprises.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent.
I don't think I can add much to what she has said, but I would like to request some leniency from the chair.
I don't know.
I don't want to name names, because if I name names, I may find myself conflicted as I go along, and I'm trying to avoid that. I would rather limit it to principle. When all of us leave this room, we carry those principles and replicate them wherever we are. The other thing with examples is that they are circumstantial. So you can do exactly the same thing in one country, it succeeds, in another it doesn't work. Right. So I'm going to start off with an example that has trailblazed in South Africa, and not only was observed in South Africa, but has influenced other pension funds and sovereign funds elsewhere in the world. And that is the Government Employee Pension Fund. They started many years ago with a framework they call Developmental Investment Framework. And all this framework does is to say it is a very bad value proposition to say to a worker, a poor worker in the mines, save for your retirement. You live like a king, but live like a pauper today. And that just didn't add up. So what the GBF decided to do was to put in place investments that actually make this poor worker to live like a prince today, in preparation to live like a king tomorrow. And that is investing where they reside. Now, those who don't know South Africa very well, we have a financial sector that is driven by what we call traditionally white investment advisors who've never seen Soweto, who've never been in the rural area. And therefore, when they advise pension funds, they advise such that they never invest in Soweto. They only invest in the centers. And that has been perpetuated over time. Now, for us to have a change amongst pension funds is to making sure that members of those boards have the right intellect to engage with the environment in which they operate, as well as the advice that they get. So if they get bad advice, they should have the guts to throw it out. Currently, we don't have that. So what the GPF did to be able to prepare itself for the difficult times, they invested in skills on the board. they funded institutions to do research for them to be able to come up with what they wanted to come up with. Now, because they were determined, they were able to drive a program that no other pension fund is able to follow on the continent. But what is interesting is that there's a fund elsewhere in the world called Mubadala in the United Arab Emirates. They listened to what the GPF was doing, and they forced that in their environment, and it is paying dividends. And why Mubadala is more successful than the GPF is not because the GPF is not doing as much as they are doing. It's because the policy environment allows them to do what they are doing. I'm glad that you're going to have the minister today. And I hope you're going to ask her the questions about policy environment. Because it doesn't matter what we do in here. If the environment does not allow for growth, you'll pedal for as hard as you want. You'll not get the outcome. So that is very key. So the GPF framework is a very simple one. It says we are investing to improve productivity of the economy, productivity of skills, and providing access to all goods and services to all members of society. When they invest in a shopping mall, the quality of the shopping mall that they have in Sandton is going to be identical to the shopping mall that they have in a rural area. And the experience that we have seen is that you throw in a mall in the middle of nothingness. All of a sudden, a lot of industries mushroom around that mall. So what has this done? It has provided opportunities. It has provided access. And out of that, skills are being generated. And therefore, for me, those of us who are going to be deploying capital, don't deploy it for the aim of only realizing a return. Deploy it for the question that was asked at the last presentation. What impact are you going to have? When COVID hit us, in South Africa in particular, I'm not sure about other countries, what became very clear is that we could have dealt with COVID much better than we did. A lot of people did not have access to running water, yet that was primary to dealing with COVID. They did not have access to a decent toilet. Many people shared toilets which were not even looked after. So what could have been a crisis of a proportion of 10 became a crisis of a proportion of 90. That's what we found ourselves in South Africa. The private sector realized, went to government and said, government, we think we want to invest differently going forward. We are giving you a proposal, and you don't have to put a cent behind the proposal. Give us all the projects that need to be funded and managed. Private sector will raise the money. All that we want from government is a policy environment that will give us guarantee that in the next 40 years we'll still be in business. This was in the middle of 2020. Today, government hasn't responded to that proposal. What does that tell you? So, it is extremely important to appreciate that as we do what we're doing, we also have to roll up our sleeves to making sure that we force the policy outcomes that we want. It is said that policy is too important to be left to government alone. Private sector needs to run. Now, some of the people in government say it's said at that time it was arrogant of private sector to have gone to government with such a proposal. But if you date back to 2015, when the SDGs were adopted in New York, every head of state reached the same conclusion. We have failed in delivering the MDGs. We cannot fail again. And when you look at SDGs 16 and 17, it's about partnership and collaboration. And what that means is that the private sector is instrumental in going forward. And that means the private sector needs to take the lead. It cannot wait for government to take the next step. And that is the kind of thinking that I would like you to take away from this room. And the examples are really valuable, but I think the framework is important because it can be replicated across time and across space consistently. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I think it's a perfect transition to what I wanted to talk about next, which are things that we'd like to see replicated and scaled. And I'll just start with a few examples. So in my work, I work on innovative financial structures. So trying to find ways to build structures that integrate social and environmental impact actually into contracts, into incentives, and into compensation. And there's a few things recently in my work that have really struck me. And Elias, one of them I think is particularly important to what you're saying, which is the area of impact litigation funding. Probably something many of you had never heard of. I had not heard of it until about a year ago. Essentially, litigation funding is a 30-year-old industry that is a multi-billion-dollar industry globally, whereby people invest in lawsuits. What's now happening is we have our first 3 impact litigation funds. That historically, a lot of this funding has been done by nonprofits, has been done by foundations, by going in. And in South Africa, we have an incredible legacy, actually, of the judicial system really stepping in and often saving large swaths of, you could say, legislative overreach. And so what these impact litigation funders are doing is that they're funding climate litigation to the tune of potentially hundreds of millions of dollars that will be taking on some of these large corporates. And there's a fund actually that's particularly focused on Africa called Restitution Capital that's actually working with governments to go after the bad actors, the corporates, the enablers of those corporates, to actually bring that capital, potentially billions of dollars, back to the country to be able to then use. Because, Elias, you're right, if we don't have a policy framework, but a lot of, South Africa's different, we've got a lot of money here, not spent well, but a lot of other countries don't actually have the money in the fiscus. So you get an anti-corruption crusader or someone that comes in and says, we're going to, make good on the SDGs, but they don't have the capital to do that. Some of it because bad actors have taken that capital away. And so I think a great example of catalytic funding is actually going after and saying, it's not all about you sitting and trying to make the best of what's left. Go after some of these organizations that have taken capital actually out of these countries and put it back. Same thing with climate. We're saying it's not priced in. All of the oil companies currently aren't pricing in the actual cost of this. Well, then make them price it into their models. And we need actually to get some of the actual economic costs that they have actually wrought on some of these areas to be able to have that capital back. So that's an example of catalytic capital. It's not just about necessarily grants. Some of these are investable, et cetera. And then one more I would say that I pretty much always say in any big room that I'm in, which is just guarantees are just such a beautiful instrument. They are underused, but they are so effective. Whether they're from a government or from a foundation, a guarantee as a first loss within a fund, underwriting a piece of it, going up and helping to guarantee a social entrepreneur. I mean, there are just guarantees, guarantee pools. If you want to talk to me about guarantees, I love them if you have questions about them. But they are just such an elegant, simple use of capital, often using balance sheets that are completely underutilized to be able to help others have access to capital, potentially at cheaper rates, particularly in some of these markets whereby the actual cost of capital is significant. So guaranteeing in US dollars or in euros, some of these costs can be, for me, I'd love to see more of both of those. So, Elias, I'm going to start with you, and then Amma, I'm going to let you have the last word. Elias, what would you like to see more of, other than, I agree with you completely, policy framework? And if anyone's interested in some really good writing on policy for impact investing, the National Task Force on their website has an excellent report that lays out policy prerogatives, and that's worked with Ghana and others to do that. So just a little plug for Elias's work on policy as well. But Elias, please, what would you like to see more of?
You've raised a an issue which is a dichotomy between corruption and productivity. And I think for South Africa, I'm not sure with the rest of the continent, corruption is our most painful Achilles heel. And we need to do something about it. So there are 3 kinds of funds that I'm going to recommend that we think about going forward. One is the one that we already know. We need more outcomes funding. And this, I hope, is going to educate our governments that it is not inputs that we should be measuring. It is outputs or outcomes. The second one is what I call a whistleblowers fund. Now, to deal with corruption, whistleblowers are extremely important to bring about this corruption. But in South Africa, whistleblowers are crucified. They're actually even burned to death. So we need a fund that is going to protect whistleblowers. These are angels to the economy that make sure that crime doesn't happen unfollowed. And the third one is a fund that was just originated with Betha as Impact Investing South Africa, which is what we call a bail fund. There's a lot of people who rot in prison or in jails for innocent reasons. And we're saying there is a case to get those people out so that they continue to be productive and gainfully employed members of society. Not only that, that kind of fund is going to help the fiscus in generating huge savings that can be invested in other productive areas instead of keeping people behind bars. But that too requires a high level of honesty from the justice system. And we don't know who's going to deliver that. Thank you.
Thank you. Great examples. I would add to that, when I look across Africa, I see a lot of local financing vehicles, really innovative, being set up. So for example, in Nigeria, the National Advisory Board there is designing a wholesale fund. It's a 1 billion fund to, it's unlocking government funding, it's unlocking pension funding, and it's going to be working on a number of innovative sub-funds, mostly funding SMEs. There's a lot that Catalytic Capital could do to bring that vision to life around its initial design, that's almost completed, around its structuring. And it would be good to see more collaborations. And we tend to see large, well-publicized catalytic initiatives regionally, and not so much catalytic initiatives that are focused on a specific country or that are, if they are a multi-country program, involve local actors across countries collaborating. There's a similar fund, it's a guarantee fund in Zambia. In Ghana, we're working on a fund called Chigaba, which is a pension-backed fund of funds. And would love to see more of those, more initiatives developed in Africa that respond to the local needs that are catalytic and that are partnering. And would like to see Catalytic Capital going into ecosystem building. So AVPA is launching a membership program. Frank highlighted some gaps. Some of those gaps come with investment opportunities. A lot of Catalytic Capital, like a lot of capital, doesn't take a stakeholder perspective in the decisions that is made. The decision-making panels, the investment committees are not diverse and do not include empowered stakeholders who can influence those investment decisions in a way that drives both return and impact. So would love to see more diverse panels, would love to see more collaborations that engage stakeholders and more empowering of stakeholders to truly participate. And then I think we'll begin to see change happening at scale.
Wonderful. I want to underline that point because I think it is It is such an important one, and I'm sorry that it was at the very end of the panel that we talked about it. But it's not just about what type of capital is invested; it's about how, and how is also who's around the table. So I just think that's a really important thing. Look who's around the table. Make sure the type of capital is responsive. Make sure it's capital that cares. But really make sure that when you're designing these types of instruments, that they are local, contextualized, and really do empower the stakeholders. Thank you, Amma, and thank you, Elias. We're leaving.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Oni Peyton Power, Amma Latte, and Elias Masilela. Thank you very much for that very informative panel session on catalytic capital. In fact, I think we need more catalytic capital in our market, so thank you very much for that. All right. It's still not the moment we're waiting for, but part of the moment. It's the keynote address. The keynote address will be delivered on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Social Development of the Republic of South Africa, and I'll just read her profile. Ms. Lindiwe Zulu Daphne Zulu is the current Minister of Social Development in the 6th administration of the Government of the Republic of South Africa. She's a member of the National Executive Commission and the chairperson of the African National Congress Subcommittee on International Relations. Unfortunately, she will not be here with us tonight, but she will be ably represented by the DG Ministry of Social Development in the person of Mr. Linton Mchunu. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Mr. Linton Mchunu to the podium. Great. Thank you, sir.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Are you well? I feel like I've been put into a very difficult situation here. I'm certainly not the lady on the screen. I work with the lady on the screen, though. My name is Linton Mchunu, as the program director indicated. I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, I'm glad I'm sitting next to you. This is why. Then I want you to say to them, I want to commit. Say this, say, I want to commit. Yeah, that's right. Say, I want to commit to doing much more to support AVPA. Now, for all the young people in the room, this is for you. Now, I want you to say to the person next to you, I also commit to write a check. Come on, to write it. Don't be shy. It's funny when we talk about money, it gets a little bit difficult, right? But let me start by saying thank you very much, Program Director, Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Glover, is it right? Let me greet the CEO of AVPA, Frank Aswani. We met not so long ago, a few months ago, and I think there was a connection that was made when we met and started talking about the important work that they're doing at AVPA. And immediately I said, this is the kind of stuff that we need to work with. As government, this is the kind of initiatives we need to partner with, and we're committed to do that. And a few months later, we're here. We've done some good work that we have put together, and we're going to be doing a lot more. So the commitment that you made is a real commitment on our part as the Department of Social Development in this country, which, by the way, has the largest budget than any other national government department, north of 263 billion rands. That's what we play with, for lack of a better word. So when I start talking those figures, if I have to translate that into US dollars, you would be shocked. And then you'll think, I need to see this guy, he has a lot of money, we need to talk. But you want the check. But in any case, that's what we do. Yes, the bulk of it goes towards social grants, but a significant amount also goes to other avenues, and I'll speak to those a little bit later today. Let me greet the captains of industry who are in the room this evening, and let me greet the CEOs of various companies, representatives from business formations, both here in South Africa and the rest of the continent. Development finance institutions, I think some of them are here, or those who have worked in some of those institutions, and all the partners of the AVPA network. Representatives, I believe that there could be one or two representatives from academia and probably even civil society here who are gathered. And let me greet any other government representative who is here in the room this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you all, and what an honor it is to be in the midst of brilliance. And what an honor it is to be in the midst of, I feel like there's iron sharpening iron happening here. I feel like there is a divine intervention happening in this very small space. In my previous life, I used to be a preacher, so don't get mad if I get into another mode a little bit later. But the truth of the matter is, what I've heard here is completely blown my mind. And I wish we had more time, Frank. I wish we could do this more often. In fact, let me make a public announcement that we will support and sponsor the next engagement that AVPA hosts. You see, I have the power of being an accounting officer, and I can sign off the checks. So hint, hint, for those who want to have a conversation. But it is indeed a profound, profound audience that is here. And what a wonderful exchange of ideas, interaction, and brilliant, sort of learning experience and curves for some of us, Let me, before I get into the detail, let me really tender an apology on behalf of the minister. She wanted to be here, Frank. She really did. And unfortunately, last night, something came up that she couldn't put off. And she said, Linton, get on a plane and go to Cape Town. I was like, oh, my. I didn't plan for this, but anyway, it is what it is. So she was scheduled to address you, but of course, as indicated, she had this challenge that she had to urgently deal with. But let me say that this is one of the areas that she and some of my colleagues who are here may attest to this, has dedicated much time and attention to. And to the organizers, I want to say, be assured that she indeed remains committed to this call. And to the vision of unlocking new capital for social impact across Southern Africa, but also across the African continent. She's committed to this vision and this work, also because she was the very first Minister of Small Business Development in this country a number of years ago. And she brought across some very, very critical programs, particularly programs for women-led enterprises and for persons with disabilities. There's a fund that we started for persons with disabilities. Never been done before. Specifically tailored for persons with disability, and we capitalized that fund, and it's now working and doing exceptionally well. But also because, so she understands the entrepreneurial space quite well, but also because she has a passion for women empowerment, especially through entrepreneurial programs. But she has also been exiled in different countries in Africa, in Uganda, in Angola, and different other countries. She spent a lot of time. In fact, just 3 days ago, we came back from the DRC. Anybody from the DRC in the room? No, you are. My brother, you have a wonderful country. And there's so much opportunities in the DRC that are being exploited, unfortunately, in some cases by external forces. But if we work together as African countries, we can do a lot more. If you think of Grand Inga, can power so many nations across the African continent. If you think of the lithium reserves, you have the most lithium reserves in the world. Battery technology is where the future is headed now. They have lithium, they have copper, they have, what else? Diamonds, my brother, you have so much. So we were with the president in the DRC, thank you, and an excellent program that was had there. But I just wanted to say that her and I had a wonderful opportunity of working with the African Union in developing the program Agenda 2063, as well as actually creating the terms of reference and working on the program of Presidential Infrastructure Championing Initiatives, which focus around infrastructure programs across the continent, but also Agenda 2063, which points out Africa's blueprint for socioeconomic development overall. So we had the opportunity to work with the team towards developing that program on the whole. And if I could start there with an email that was drafted by the then chairperson of the African Union Commission, who crafted a letter entitled An Email from the Future, where she writes to Kwame Nkrumah in 2063. And this is the picture that she paints. She speaks of the noble aspirations of the future of Africa, and she points that in 2063, that is now, she speaks in the future, Africa is integrated with regional trade moving from 12% to 50% in 2030 to the continental free trade area and contributing to economic development where young people have jobs. She indicates that we're one of the fastest growing economies in the world now, with countries like Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia leading the pack. So high levels of economic growth are taking place. She talks about an Africa who is adding value to its mineral resources as opposed to selling it in its raw form. She talks about an African express rail which can travel across the continent in a matter of days, not only moving people, but also has a pipeline moving gas, water, and ICT broadband cables. She talks about the girl, child, and woman who have been consulted by agro-economists now running their own cooperatives and businesses and dominating the entire agricultural value chain and agro-processing value chain. And she talks about an article in some magazine who once referred to Africa as a hopeless continent, citing conflicts, hunger, disease, and poverty as if it was a permanent condition for the continent, and how this very same publication has since changed many years later and written another article entitled A Hopeful Continent, Africa Rising. She also indicates, it's okay, you can clap. She also indicates a very weird African paradox that exists, that Africa is rich, but its people are poor. And she says this doesn't make any sense and has to change. I want to say to you, Frank, and the rest of the team and the leadership of AVPA, what you're doing today with the launch of this very important program and this work that you are doing is squarely aligned to what the former AU chairperson wrote in that email from the future, and serves as a stepping stone towards reaching these aspirations through your noble aspirations to contribute towards the growth and development of our continent through collaboration, innovation, and social impact investment, especially when it comes to support for social enterprises and sustainable programs and projects. I have a reputation of being able to get money out of people. Not because I was a pastor, no. Not at all, I guarantee you. But I have that knack. So what is unique about this platform and the work you guys are doing is that you're focusing on young people. And you're being deliberate about also supporting women-owned enterprises. And all the people you had on stage earlier, I noticed are only women, and mostly young, so big up to young people. And the biggest challenges facing developing countries now is unemployment, especially for youth, and poverty, and in some cases even inequality. Of course, we must be conscious about rising social ills, such as gender-based violence, child abuse, trafficking of persons, early child and forced marriages. These are real. Genital mutilation, sexual violence, alcohol abuse, and substance abuse, amongst others. And these should move us to create and support social entrepreneurs who find innovative solutions to work with governments to address some of these challenges, including in the health, in the education, and in the social sectors. And I think those young girls, the ladies that were here, those entrepreneurs who were here, are doing just that. When I saw some of them in terms of the work that they're doing, I was really impressed about the work that they do. So it is well established that, it is a well-established fact, rather, that poverty, lack of income, as well as ownership of assets, adds to women vulnerability to violence and reduces their opportunity to participate in economic activities. While various frameworks and protocols at a continental level are in place and protect and empower women and youth, the real strategies and tactics must come from platforms such as this. And this platform should contribute to innovative solutions and should provide sustainable access to capital, as raised by many of the entrepreneurs who were on stage earlier. So what Bayers was doing here earlier by providing support to women-led enterprises is actually increasing their participation in the economic space and improving investment in families and communities and ultimately reducing poverty. So big up to Bayers and the work that you are doing on that front. So we want to challenge other corporates. This is the time where you ought to clap. We want to challenge other corporates in the room to do the same. It's important. On our continent, we are told that we are a continent of young people, and it is certainly getting younger. With a much greater youth bulge expected in the future, according to the World Bank, Sub-Saharan Africa is home to more than 1 billion people, half of whom will be under 25 years by 2050, and a majority of whom will be women and girls. Africa is a diverse continent, ladies and gentlemen, offering human and natural resources that have the potential to yield inclusive growth and eradicate poverty in the region. With the world's largest free trade area of over 1.2 billion person market, the continent is creating an entirely new developmental path, harnessing the potential of its resources and its people. The Economic Commission for Africa states that the continent needs to create at least 12 million new jobs annually to manage the unemployment crisis on the continent, and Frank broke it down per hour, per minute. So there's a case to be made for government to invest in young people in order to reach the demographic dividend. Not just government, but also private sector and all sectors of society. And this means that in the next 50 years, we will need entrepreneurs who will employ more than 1 billion people, most of which will be youth. And we need to take decisive steps now and be deliberate about how we want to solve current and future problems, or what some have called wicked problems. Now, I often say that our #1 poverty alleviation program should be entrepreneurship. I think that's quite important. And getting people to become active in society and doing things for themselves. In government language, we call it creating sustainable livelihoods. As government, we have created an enabling environment, and I think what Elias mentioned today is true. And I think that we've done okay. We could have done more, but we have created an enabling environment. If you think of how we've put programs in place to support SMME startups, cooperatives, and so on, both from a funding and non-funding point of view. But I think we have done a lot. However, government alone cannot do this, and the kind of growth and development we require to address the challenges that we face as a continent requires collaborative approaches. And what we were discussing today is exactly what we need. Not just government, private sector, think tanks, academia, civil society, everybody needs to get together. Advancing a developmental agenda, and Program Director, I'm close to the end. Advancing a developmental agenda for our country and continent, and accelerating the goal to meet our aspirations of Agenda 2063, as well as the 2030 UN SDG targets, requires a solid ecosystem where partners can play in their strengths in achieving the greater good. Looking carefully at who is represented in the room today, I'm very confident that we have all the ingredients and insights required to respond creatively to the persistent challenges of youth unemployment and socioeconomic challenges facing our community in general. It's not always about money, although money has a huge part to play. It's also about genuine commitment to improve the quality of life of people. And I think that that's important. And I can see some of this coming out in the conversations that are being had today. And it's also about having solid programs that would attract the money. So many private companies we have engaged with, for example, both here and outside, always indicate that we want to assist and contribute towards addressing the challenges that you face. However, you have not packaged as government programs for us to be able to attract our investment or to fund programs. So this is something that I really want us to think about. And we as government have some ideas, and I'll talk to one or two just as I close. I want to thank so many of you in the midst today who are working closely with government to use all means, expertise, technological platforms, blended finance and marketing opportunities to make government work in support of the social cause, especially our social entrepreneurs. And we've just started a program on social entrepreneurship as the Department of Social Development. I think a lot of people think that when they think social development, the first thing that comes to mind is grants. It's not all that we do. We do much more than grants. We're actively involved in the entrepreneurial space. And we are being deliberate, together with the minister, around driving that because we think it's important. And for example, we spend over 8 billion rands annually in support of non-profit organizations that are part of our service delivery model. And almost 100% of these funds fall within the traditional grant offering. And this, which means that we give NGOs money, we don't expect them to pay us back. And this figure, or rather this falls within the traditional grant offering, and this figure can be estimated further in the northward direction when considering the rest of the government investment. The key question for us to answer is how can we use these resources to modernize the NGO sector and to de-risk the current investment and to crowd in new private capital for impact. And I'd like us to have a much deeper conversation, especially with the panels that were up here, some of the colleagues who were here, around how we as government can, and working with private sector and philanthropists, can bridge capital towards this end. And I think, Elias, you started talking a little bit to that. As I conclude, let me remark that we are living in interesting times, a moment where there is a groundswell of corporate ideas driven by greater integration of environmental, social, and governance, or ESG as most know it, criteria in business and investing choices that favor collaboration with social enterprises. Private sector is searching for meaningful connections to bridge capital with patriotism, and this membership platform will certainly be a catalytic platform to have these conversations. Having said that, a lot still needs to be done by repurposing our current assets, reorientation of our institutions, and upskilling of available human resources to take advantage of the rising opportunities that Africa has. The President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa, made it clear that in the wake of the current social ills that befall us as a country, the government needs to work closer with the private sector to productively engage our current pool of unemployed social worker graduates. And you may have seen an article in the paper yesterday that talked about 9,000 unemployed social work graduates within the ESG space, and I think that we can have a conversation to that end. And I have no doubt that the combination of the insights generated today will lead us to the realization of this goal. I dare remind ourselves that our political governance, social and economic apparatus should work tirelessly to serve the collective interest of our people and to ensure that as partners, we provide them with a better quality of life. It is for this reason that I stand to be counted as a partner, my brother, to walk and talk the journey with you from today moving forward. And if I am to close, there are 3 aspects, just 3, maybe 4, that I would suggest that we do and be deliberate and be clear about this. 1, collaborate. Count us in as government. We have this issue around trust between government and the private sector. There's no time for that now. We have to work. We have a country to save. We've got people we need to get into jobs. We've got challenges that we need to fix. Let's forget about this challenge that we have around this issue of trust. Let's get the job done. So I'm saying count us in. We're in this together as government. Number 2, invest to grow the social economy. Very important, especially for youth and women. And I appreciate what has been done today. I think it's the step in the right direction. And if we can in any way expand the work that you are doing today, we'd do that. Number 3, foster innovation to address social issues. When I saw what the young lady is doing with ECD here, I was amazed. We've just signed a partnership agreement with the US agency to try and drive social programs in South Africa. They're already doing it in other parts of Africa. Why can we not take young entrepreneurs and turn waste into wealth? Our streets are dirty. They're filthy. Why can we not find innovative ideas within that space to support them, address the challenges of having untidy and dirty streets, but also give them a job and be able to assist them to create more money? That's just an idea. Lastly, be deliberate. It can't be business as usual. It has to be business unusual. And I'm saying that as government, we're here. We want to partner. There is no time for us and them. We have to collaborate, and we have to be deliberate. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Linton. Collaborate, count on the government, invest to grow the social economy, and then foster innovation to address social issues. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope we are taking pictures, and please we'd like you to tweet and hashtag AVPA membership. Hashtag AVPA membership. What did I say? Hashtag and tag AVPA at _ AVPA _ and come on. Hashtag and tag. There's money to win. There's money to win. _ AVPA _ Thank you. Now, this is the moment you have been waiting for. We'll have, before we call on the AVPA team to explain the AVPA membership, we have a message from the AVPA community, and I'm a part of that community. Okay, let's take it. Technical? Great, thank you.
The Africa Venture Philanthropy Alliance is a valued partner for the Lummelson Foundation. We believe in AVPA's mission and vision of an African continent where collaborative and effective social investment results in exponential social impact and the achievement of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Historically, the social sector has relied on philanthropy and government funding to address our most pressing problems. We know that in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and create the future that we all want, we need to develop investment-worthy solutions and mobilize private capital. Climate change is one urgent global challenge that manifests in countless ways across different communities. Climate action looks different around the world. The African Venture Philanthropy Alliance has been convening and cultivating a community of aligned investors for the past 4 years. That community is diverse in terms of needs and interests, and AVPA helps us all understand where our interests align. Thank you, AVPA, as well as other members, collaborators, and attendees of this launch event. I certainly wish we could be there to celebrate with you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Famunda, and I'm a Social Investment Associate here at Oppenheimer Generations Philanthropies. I came to know about AVPA through Frank Aswani. My favorite part of the fellowship was really learning about wicked problems and how they capture the complexity in the development space, and I was really intrigued by that sort of framework. So we really thought that this program was crucial so that our sort of the African fellows could learn from the Asian fellows and learn which pitfalls to avoid as you start to enter the social impact investing space. In terms of where we see ourselves, we are sort of nudging our heads into the impact investing space. We're exploring ways which we can blend our capital, which we can use our capital in catalytic ways. And yeah, we're really hoping that we can be very experimental and a risk taker, but also have a solid learning function on this journey. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, I am Carolina Suarez, CEO of Latin Pact, the Latin American sister network of AVPA. I'm excited to send my regards to Frank and the AVPA team. It is true that both networks, AVPA and Latinpacto, are committed to building an impact ecosystem across Africa and Latin America, regions that share similar challenges. To tackle these challenges, it is critical to improve collaborations that make a real difference in shaping a more sustainable world. Our membership program drives more connections and helps our community to focus resources, knowledge and expertise to deploy their capital more strategically. I am glad to witness that a similar model will be a reality led by AVPA. By expanding your reach, launching your membership program, AVPA is opening incredible doors, not only for its members, but also for the entire impact ecosystem in Africa and worldwide, in partnership with Latinpacto and our sister networks EVPA and AVPA. As our common pioneer founder, Doug Miller says, success breeds success. I wish you all the best. Congratulations.
We are part of a global network of impact investing networks that include Latin America, Latinpacto, AVPN, and now AVPA. We need to mobilize more capital from the continuum, whether it's philanthropic capital, private, commercial, risk-taking capital. And that's why it's very important that we work globally, because the funding gap is unprecedentedly big, and we need to work together. We are very proud that the AVPA is now opening for membership. We wish them all the best on their journey, and we look forward to continue collaborating and sharing learning across the networks. So good luck.
Hello, I'm Naina Sabarwal Batra, the CEO of AVPN. AVPN and AVPA have been working hand in hand, aligning our vision to move capital towards impact in Asia and Africa. Ecosystem building and partnerships are at the heart of our work at AVPN. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to AVPA for launching its membership program. Being a part of an international group of networks, AVPA can expand its reach and gain access to valuable resources which its members will find beneficial. The value of membership to a network and ecosystems cannot be overstated. It offers a multitude of benefits, from opportunities for peer learning and capacity building to enhanced networking and collaborative opportunities with like-minded stakeholders. On the behalf of all of AVPN, I send my warmest wishes to AVPA on this very important occasion.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chinedu Allenson. I head Member Relations Services for AVPA in the West Africa region. I'm based out of Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm very, very happy to be here today. AVPA is built on 4 pillars: connect, learn, influence, and scale. And I'm very proud to stand before you today to speak on connect. We're built on a very big network. Reshaping Africa's sustainable development paradigm starts first with bringing the right organizations together to forge a common path. This is the heart of our mission at AVPA. AVPA has identified over 4,000 social partners in our database across Africa. We recognize the importance of embracing a continental approach that considers the unique challenges, opportunities, and diversities in Africa. Your membership of AVPA brings you into this community of responsible actors, driving this change that the continent needs in this area. We have a large Pan-African footprint. With an established presence in South, East, and West Africa, and with further plans for expansion on the continent, AVPA strategically maximizes coverage in addressing the prevailing impact investing gap across the continent. AVPA's active network spans across 24 countries in Africa, showcasing our commitments to fostering social investment and impact across the continent. As a member of AVPA, you have the opportunity to leverage our footprint to extend your programs across multiple markets and harness specific insights from across Africa. AVPA is a global network. Our strategic partnership with the Global Alliance of Impact Networks, alongside our sister organizations, EVPA, AVPN, and Latimpacto, ensures that we have collectively over 1,100 social investors in a network spanning over 70 countries with more than 120 people on the ground. This network includes the world's leading impact funds, private equity firms, venture capital firms, foundations, aid agencies, family offices, DFIs, and intermediaries. AVPA membership provides you with unparalleled access to this global network, enabling you to forge connections, partnerships, and alliances with our sister networks, social investors that scale up initiatives and growth of the global social investment ecosystem. AVPA has convenings. By bringing together diverse stakeholders, addressing thought-provoking themes, facilitating knowledge exchange, fostering collaboration, and promoting action-oriented approaches, our convenings contribute to driving meaningful change and advancing in the field of impact. We have had an average of over 300 registered participants per virtual event or webinar in the last 12 months. These gatherings also foster collaboration and build a strong sense of community for you to engage with other actors and extend your impact. AVPA membership gives you priority access and discounts to all our convenings in Africa, as well as those of our sister networks across the various continents. AVPA's DealShare platform. The DealShare platform was created because of the impression that there's more capital in Africa than there is in the investable pipeline. This platform serves as a centralized hub where investments can share valuable resources and expertise, extend invitations to potential partners, and engage in co-investment opportunities. This co-investment approach helps pool resources, diversify risk, and increase the scale and impact of investments in impactful projects. We have over 126 active social investors and over 46 endorsed deals so far on the DealShare platform. Lisa G. Thomas, the founder and managing director of Samata Capital, a beneficiary of the platform, has testified to the impactfulness of the DealShare platform. In conclusion, I would like to say that as we embark on this journey together, let us remember that our impact goes far beyond the four walls of this room. We can harness the power of collective action. Connecting and collaborating allows us to amplify the impact of our investments. Together, we have the potential to create far greater difference than we could achieve individually. I would like to hand over now to my colleague Zach to speak on the learning pillar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chinedu. Good evening, everyone. Habari zenyu? Okay, habari is for Kenyans in the room, means hello. So, my name is Zachary Mikwa, and I work at AVPA from the Nairobi office. I'm really happy to join you here today, and also grateful for making time to be with us in this very transformative event where we get to launch our membership program. So at AVPA, I lead the Knowledge Center, and the Knowledge Center, it's all about learning, right? So, of course, we know that social impact investing will play a critical role in helping Africa to achieve sustainable development. But for us to really succeed at this, we have to get the learning part right. But at the moment, we're really facing various kinds of challenges, which is blocking us from unlocking the continent's potential to leverage these different forms of capital, for impact, and of course, for achieving green and just transition across the continent. So at AVPA Knowledge Center, we want to change this, and we want to work with you as partners, as members, and funders, to at least come up with interventions which will help us make learning to be transformative, make learning to be relevant for the ecosystem and for all of us. So in the past, we've been doing this with our esteemed partners. We have the Rockefeller Foundation here, and we have the Poticas and the Oppenheimer family, who've really worked with us to implement the Africa Impact Investing Fellowship. This is a very exciting program which, over the past few years, we've attracted over 800 applications from emerging and seasoned impact investing practitioners across the continent. And as we speak now, we have an ongoing intake, and we've already registered almost close to 50 participants. Apart from that, of course, you can see here Gadhu is able to share some of the impact this program has brought to him as a practitioner within the space. But apart from the Africa Impact Investing Fellowship, we are also partnering with the Boehringer Ingelheim to implement the African Healthcare Funders Forum. I'm so Christian here. Christian from Boehringer has been an esteemed partner and has been working with us in this journey. So through this program, we've been able to bring together various practitioners specific to the healthcare sector. But beyond the healthcare program, I want to share with you other upcoming knowledge projects that we are undertaking. We recently received funding from the Lemerson Foundation to do something within the climate resilience investing space. So what we will do with this program is bring in both the supply side and demand side players within the climate resilience space. I believe some of them are here. So as to make sense of how we can both work to at least do something within the climate adaptation space. But beyond that, we also have an upcoming training on catalytic capital investing. We had done some surveys on what the stakeholders within this space, see about catalytic investing, and we've developed a curriculum in collaboration with the UCT and the Batha Institute. So I welcome all of you to be part of this program. But beyond the trainings that we do, I am aware that you all know what we do in the research. So please visit our website so that you can download the reports that we've done on social impact investing landscape. But I'm also happy to announce that African Development Bank is also funding us to undertake almost 4 new research to really make sense of the impact investing landscape in the continent, both from the demand side and the supply side. Also, beyond that, we just concluded a research here in South Africa on the state of innovative finance, and this is a report that we'll launch officially very soon to really give you an understanding of the various instruments that are being employed, and of course, within South Africa and the way the South African social impact investing ecosystem works. So with that, I was also happy when I heard the DG mentioning that, when he was talking about the email, that by 2063, the conversation on how we position the continent ought to change. So within Avpa, we are sort of ahead of the curve because we are about to launch a magazine. We won't call it Africa Rising, we will call it Africa Advantage. And this magazine is where we're going to work with experts across the continent to showcase the opportunities, the unique opportunities that are within Africa to the world, so that we open these opportunities for impact investing. So once more, I want to thank you all for believing in this course and for taking time to be with us here today in Cape Town. And here is to our new journey for making learning about impact investing in Africa transformative and enjoyable. Thank you very much.
afternoon, all. Before I start with my session, I want to share 2 lessons I've just learned very quickly. And the first one is never to take advice from your CFO, who rarely ever speaks. So I was struggling with the salutation. I'd prepared, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and then I realized how not inclusive that salutation is. So I'm sitting there at the back with Tafadzwa, and I'm trying to, what do I say? And Tafadzwa says, just get up there and say, all protocol observed. That's not how you start a greeting. The second lesson I've learned is when we were extending the invites and sharing the kind of dress code we would like, we said African. So the second lesson I've learned is never invite a West African to your home and tell them to dress to the nines, because they will outdress you every time. You look at the people in the room, and I mean, it's all kinds of fabulosity, and it's from West Africa. So you need to give us a master class on how to keep to that dress code. Good afternoon, all protocol observed. My name is Vuyiswa Nconsa. Is the DG still here? So I just wanted to correct the pronunciation of your name. It's Mchunu. MC, it's Mchunu, not Mchunu. Just like Nconsa. I am the Regional Director for Southern Africa at AVPA, and I am grateful to have a room as full as this is, because this has been a labor of love for many of the people who've been involved with AVPA from the beginning. Darren Martin says, the most critical success factor for leaders is their ability to influence the right people at the right time about the right thing. We certainly want to do that about our membership program. The very essence of our work at AVPA is to influence the role different sectors play in impact investing. Influence carries with it the power to transform societies, to shape policies, and to advance social investment. Our work is about influencing organizations and policymakers to standardize, to legislate, and to advance social investment. It's the recognition that true change occurs when all stakeholders collaborate on initiatives that drive social impact. I was so pleased when the DG mentioned that we need to work and never mind the trust. I'm of a different opinion, because the work we're doing is happening in a space where there's trust deficits between all institutions. So, and I am also not unbiased in saying, through the convenings that AVPA does, we are that platform that can begin to do, or at least facilitate, that trust-building work. To this end, we want to appreciate the presence of government, and I think the DG is the right person. He was the right person at the right time with the right message. We also heard your offer to fund the next event, and we have more than 140 witnesses. We also have people who can volunteer to do legal work pro bono, so we hope we won't have to call on that. To this end, we want to appreciate the presence of government, the private sector, civil society, and the media. And most of the media people in the room have really volunteered their time, so thank you. It's mission critical to bridge the trust divide between the various institutions to enable the increase of the flow of capital into Africa. My colleagues have highlighted the importance of collaboration. AVPA recognizes that no single organization can single-handedly drive the change we seek. To that end, we place immense importance on co-creating intervention programs, and those programs are meant to be responsive. We believe in delving deep into the heart of our challenges and also designing innovative solutions to address the root causes. In one of the video clips you would have seen Ashley Finn of Oppenheimer Generations sharing the benefit and the value of having been part of the Africa Impact Investing Fellowship Program. So the program she was talking about, we are doing through a partnership with the faculty from the Said Business School of Oxford. And in September, we'll be running that program again for the third time in as many years. I know I've been given 5 minutes, but we're hosting, so I'm taking liberties. I also want to highlight the strategic partnership that shows our commitment to influence impactful investments. And AVPA, together with the UNDP, are committed to delivering the SDG Impact Standards training for African corporates. We have Joanne Manda in the room representing the UNDP, so great. And the second collaboration with the UNDP will be through a series of webinars that will address the role policymakers should be playing to create an enabling environment for catalytic capital to thrive and to contribute to addressing our social challenges. My colleague Chinedu has highlighted the value of our DealShare platform, and we are intending to build a number of other thematic platforms, including one for agriculture, for education, for healthcare, etc. But we have started with the Gender Lens platform. And we've done that because we are keen to leverage the gender ecosystem for collaborative social impact and returns. Africa stands to gain 10% growth or add $316 billion to its collective GDP if we improve our gender equality opportunities over the next few years. That's according to McKinsey Global Institute. In reality, the gender lens investing in emerging markets is modest in size, and it's estimated at between 15 billion and 20 billion. The reality is 20 billion, and the potential is 16 billion. Where was I? Also, did you know that only 12% of senior general partners in sub-Saharan African private equity firms are female? And globally, you would expect that stats to be better. It isn't. It's 11%. And the second number is relevant to Africa because an increasing number of global firms are investing in the continent. So there's value in advocating for one another, there's value in collaborating and learning and sharing what works in other locations. So the lesson here is that there simply isn't enough female representation amongst investors. You heard the ladies, the awardees, who were sharing how at times they needed to go with a man so that they could get the recognition they deserve. And growing this number is crucial to addressing gender bias amongst investors in the continent. I don't want to leave the male investors in the room because many of them are allies. But gentlemen who with deep pockets, you have to make more of an effort to intentionally invest in female-owned businesses. We know that when you give money to women, we tend to stretch it and do a lot more than the gentlemen tend to do. Beyond the capacity building programs, AVPA has established communities of practice in line with our thematic areas. And those communities of practice are spaces of trust and safety where people learn from what's happening, innovations, they share resources, they share ideas, and we want to expand what we launched in February this year by way of communities of practice. Lastly, as we launch the membership program today, we invite you to become a part of this powerful and influential movement. Your participation in AVPA is not merely a membership. It's an opportunity to partner with a truly Pan-African ecosystem builder, to leverage your influence, to shape policies, to drive social investment, and to ultimately create a better world for the next generation. I thank you.
I work with really cool people. when someone, your colleague, is able to tell the DG that I don't agree with you, you can imagine what our team meetings are like. Voice for Zach, Chinedu, thank you. Thank you for speaking from the bottom of my heart. And I think that's what makes my job really easy. Is that I work with people who are really passionate, who are not here for any other reason but because they really believe in what this continent carries. And that is what helps me get up every day and do what I do best. The commitment that comes from my board, who are volunteers to support us, the team, is immense. While we're here, and before I forget, I do want to recognize some of my other colleagues in the room. Abby, behind the scenes there, is not employed by the technicians. She's one of us. I'm just going to ask Abby to wave. Tafazwa, where are you? There you are. Tafazwa is a CFO. Tochoku. Tochoku is a week old. No, please stand up. You're 6'5". Please stand. Yes, thank you. He's just joined us, our regional director for West Africa. And I want to really thank Martin. Martin, please stand up. Martin was holding fort for us in West Africa for a long time as we were looking for Tochoku as a replacement. And he did a phenomenal job, Martin. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate what you did. So I'm going to talk a bit about scale. And we have Abu, who could not be here because the baby decided to come earlier. When African kids knock, you do not stop them. So he's sadly not here, but Abu, I know you're with us online, and we wish you were here. So I do want to talk a bit about scale. And the scale thing is very important because I don't know if you know the power of what we are doing in this room and what we're innovating. Whatever works in Africa is globally scalable. Let me let that sink in a bit. If your innovation works in Africa, it's globally scalable because we offer you the extreme of conditions to test anything. You're laughing, but it's for real. Okay? You take a four-wheel drive to Fifth Avenue in New York or bring it to the roads of Africa, tell me where it works best. And so for that end, we're very particular about how we build the scale capacity in this continent. One of the things that really has to hold us is how do we build the human capital to drive what we've been talking about all of today forward. It's embarrassing that we have one university in the whole continent that teaches impact and sustainable finance. 54 countries. We're the biggest impact opportunity in the world. We have one school. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. So what we've been doing as AVPA is working with a group called the Impact and Sustainable Finance Consortium Faculty, which is a group of 100 business schools that teach the subject. One of the joys about being in that consortium is that all the curriculum and research is made open source. So you can teach anywhere using Harvard, Duke curriculum, whatever. The sad thing is that we don't have a formal African institution in that network. Okay? We're trying to fix that, and that's why we've got a university's capacity building program, which we want to recruit and take 50 African business schools in the next 3 years, so that everything we can do locally at scale. We can train local players, do policy research and support governments, and do case studies. That's something to look forward to. As we said, we're not really short of capital in the world, but short of risk capital. So how do we build large pools of risk capital on the continent? We're going to be doing a lot in that space. There's a partner that's in this room today we're talking to about doing donor roundtables to aggregate funding into catalytic pools of capital, so watch that space. We're looking, so the pool funds concept, we've also got an American investor who's come to us to help us set up 3 catalytic pool funds in water and sanitation, agribusiness, and healthcare that we're going to be testing out in the next couple of months. As I mentioned earlier, we've got to be looking at also what is Afro unique and what is about the capital that we're trying to mobilize. And I'm a big, proud African who believes we've got to mobilize local-based capital. We can't keep looking at external capital and give local capital opportunities to contribute in addition to the impact that we're creating. So the faith-based, which I spoke about earlier, the diaspora remittances, savings, and family offices initiative we're going to be carrying forward. And lastly, we can never do this alone. So in the room are partners from Andy, Tenai and Sakai and Rosemary, I think, are all here. The NABs from the various countries, Etemore, who leads Nigeria, Ama, I'm a big fan of Ama and what the work she's doing in Ghana, really, really phenomenal work. The Kenyans were represented by a board chairman, a board member in Kenya, Arif, also part of this. We've got to see how we can do a lot more in that space and the philanthropic networks as well. I also want to, once again, echo what we're really anticipating to do with GAIN, and governments are a big part of what we're going to achieve going forward. So all of these things are kind of the stuff we're looking at in terms of seeing how we can scale the work that we're doing. So in conclusion, that's kind of what we're going to be looking at in the scale space. But I want to take this moment while I'm up here to do a couple of things. And I said this is a real important day for us, and for me in particular, in terms of gratitude. There are people who stuck with us when we were just an idea on paper, and they've given us a chance because they believed in what we're doing to bring us here. People who hosted sessions for us, convenings for us. They didn't give us money, but they gave us support, and they gave us a pat on the back for every step we took forward. But I do want to recognize all these names in here that have been big contributors to our progress and success to date. And you'll see some usual suspects, some very unusual suspects, some names that you might not recognize because they are various parts of our ecosystem, board members, and so on and so forth. So we're really, really grateful for the gratitude that we've shown here. And I think the next slide, what I want to do is highlight the more recent partners who've given us an additional boost in a post-COVID world when money was tight. Okay, the Gates Foundation, who are our latest funders, Leila, I don't know if Leila is here. Oh, thank you, Leila. It was a labor of love, but we got to the finish line in the end. And they've come in strongly to support us on some big things. AFDB, who are funding the work that Zach mentioned. Connie, First Round Empowerment Fund, thank you. Really, really grateful for what you've done for us. The Melson Foundation and Porticus, who are not here today, but who are funding our the fellowship program for this year. We cannot do this without you. And thank you. I know ecosystem work is not sexy. We don't give you a school to put in your pictures. We don't give you a building. But we do such transformative work that goes unnoticed in many ways. And it's the different type of partner who comes to work with us, who's got a vision that goes beyond the obvious. And for that, we're grateful and thank you. Okay. So I'm going to stop there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to invite my chairman, Dotun Suleiman, to come and make some remarks. Okay. Actually, I jumped the gun a bit. We need to see. I'm so keen to listen to Dotun speak that I forgot a very important thing. We now have to formally launch AVPA, by the way. You know, Africans, we've got to do this thing properly. So I'm going to ask my board, the DG, can you please come back up? Can the AVPA board please come up as well? The DG? Is he? Oh, he's gone out. Okay. We want to make sure that the pictures are taken that you are here so that when we come back for that money for the next event, there's evidence. So, yeah, thank you. So, like a child's birthday, we cannot go out of this room without formally recognizing the pomp that brought us together. But to the board, to all of you in here, this is, and I keep saying, this is your network. We're providing a home for you to do what you do best, and we'll help you grow and support you in that context. So from that perspective, thank you very much, and would like to formally open AVPA. Well, this is super exciting for some of us who never had birthday parties. This is it. I've got my moment now. The only thing that's missing is a bouncing castle outside, and I'm good. Thank you very much. You can take your seats, and we'll have the chairman give his remarks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When we were putting this together, I would say up until yesterday, I didn't quite know what to expect. But whatever it is, whatever my expectations were, being exceeded grossly. So I would say I'm one very, very happy and very proud chairman of the board today. And thanks to Frank and the team for an amazing job they've done. I'd like to read my address, if you don't mind. And I would like to start by recognizing the minister, who is unavoidably absent but represented by the Director General of the Ministry. Of course, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, partners and ecosystem players. And as we say in Nigeria, we say all protocols observed. In fact, the Nigerian twist to that say all protocols duly observed. I thought it was a Nigerian until I started hearing it in South Africa. I think I had it in Nairobi as well, so it's becoming African. But it's definitely my pleasure to extend a heartfelt welcome to you all on behalf of the board of AVPA. Your decision to join us here today demonstrates your commitment to creating a positive and sustainable change in Africa. Thank you for joining the AVPA network and for becoming part of this vibrant community of change makers. We are excited to embark on this journey with you as we work towards a more equitable, sustainable, and prosperous Africa. AVPA is driven by a powerful vision to unlock Africa's impact potential by providing impact investors with necessary tools, resources, connections, and expertise to mobilize and deploy resources for maximum impact. As a member of this network, you are joining a community of exceptional individuals and organizations who share a common purpose and desire of seeing and building a better Africa. By leveraging our collective knowledge, networks, and resources, we can drive innovation, foster entrepreneurship, and create meaningful and lasting social impact across Africa. AVPA membership serves as a platform for collaboration and learning, enabling us to maximize our collective strength and create synergies that amplify our results. The AVPA membership launch event that we're just about to wrap up is a testament to our network's convening ability. It's a full room. As both the leading impact investing network and the only network in Africa that brings together social investors across the entire continuum of capital, of grants, debt, and equity. Amongst the main issues surfaced by practitioners in AVPA's 2020 landscape study was the need to break silos and promote genuine collaboration in the ecosystem. At AVPA, we believe that Africa's pressing challenges require the concerted efforts of the collective and not just individual entities. This belief forms the basis of one of our core values of genuine collaboration. It therefore gives me immense pleasure to see the Honorable Minister, represented by the DG of South Africa, with us here today. Governments are key partners in all development initiatives across the continent and should always be treated as a close ally. I think the DG made that point very, very succinctly. And therefore, we are very happy, therefore, that governments are not only important in creating an enabling environment for the impact space to grow and thrive, but also a key provider of risk and catalytic capital that will help crowd private capital into the impact space. And they have plenty of money, even though they have more problems than they have money. With this launch, we wish to communicate that our network is home to all of Africa's impact practitioners, social investors, as well as deployers of intellectual and human capital. Additionally, we wish to underscore the need for openness to solutions from outside Africa that AVPA is able to tap into through our global sister networks in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Allow me to extend our sincere gratitude to the partners who trusted us from when AVPA was just an idea and have backed us over the last 5 years to make this day and vision possible. The Rockefeller Foundation, Yellow Woods, the U.S. African Development Foundation, Oppenheimer Generations, and APSA, to name just a few, that bought into the AVPA mission and vision from the onset by putting some seed funding into our early activities. These early believers enabled the journey that has brought us here today. That has equally been made possible by the support of Ballerwood, Bayer Foundation, First Round Empowerment Fund, the University of Oxford Science School of Business, the African Development Bank, and most recently, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Last but not least, let me remind you that Africa's current challenges will not be solved by yesterday's solutions. We need to continuously innovate new solutions and scale proven models at speed and scale needed to accelerate Africa's sustainable development. This is your network, whose success will be driven by your input, innovation, and initiatives. And I believe that we can do more together than we can do on our own. We commit to supporting you in this impact journey. I would be remiss to finish my remarks before thanking the organizations that have brought us into our network's mission, that have brought into our network's mission and vision by signing as early members. Thank you, and a warm welcome to you all. I look forward to witnessing the incredible impact we are going to be making together as a network and ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adedotun Sulaiman, for that speech. Africa's problem will not be solved by yesterday's model. I think that was really, really powerful. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end. So we now have the vote of thanks. I'd like to call on you, Mr. Patrick Perrin, Chairman of the Southern African Board for AVP. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the absence of the Honorable Minister Zulu, we want we Lincoln, our DG Kuno, if I pronounced correctly, honored guest, the EVPA members and prospective members, all protocols observed. So it is my pleasure and honor to do the vote of thanks, and I think we will all agree after a very impactful and exciting day. My journey with AVPA goes back to a very wet, and we are extremely lucky with the weather. I was praying, and if there's some Cape Townians here, they know what the weather was last week. So we are extremely blessed with the weather. As my journey with the AVPA started on a cold winter's evening in August, about 7 years ago, at the VA waterfront, where I had supper with Paul Cartier, who is here, from the USA, and his colleague Andrew Murray, when they introduced me to what was from then the beginning of EPA, and here we are today, celebrating and engaging with partners. On behalf of the AVPA board, founders, the board, and staff, I would like to express our gratitude and appreciation to all of you who honored this significant milestone in our journey. A special thanks goes to, in the absence of the minister, but our DG here, for honoring this event. Secondly, I want to thank our partners. We are immensely grateful for your support, without which this event would not have been possible. And I think much has been said about that already. Furthermore, I want to acknowledge and thank the members who have taken the time, who have taken the leap of faith and signed up for AVPA membership. For those organizations that are contemplating joining, I want to thank you for your presence here and assure you that AVPA will do its best to assist you to address your pain points with regard to impact investing and co-creation of programs. To all our guests who are coming from all over the continent and from elsewhere, I've seen on the board, there's from Russia, Europe, all over. Thank you for being here. To the service providers, the venue, and the event manager, Leslie Johnson, and those who have attended last night's event was, for me as a Cape Townian, quite an amazing experience in Langa. We thank you for accommodating all our needs and often at short notice. To our board, who volunteer their time without taking a cent, your work has begun to pay dividends. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. And then in absentia, I want to like to acknowledge Gunilla Carlson, who can't be here, Alison Howell, who was going to be here, but unfortunately flight challenges, and Lorraine Colucci Ollison for their role too. But last but not least, I would like to thank Frank, the CEO. Our CEO, together with the AVPA team. This has taken months to prepare, and now it is here happening. With these words, I want to thank you all, wishing you all a safe journey home. I thank you.
Thank you, and that's it. So this is a wrap. Item 7. Hey! So, ladies and gentlemen, please, before we leave, let's not forget the hashtag. Hashtag. And tag. Yes! So let's do that. And please, if you'd like to know more about the AVPA membership or more about AVPA, please leave your name at the foyer there, and we will contact you after today. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's follow the ushers and let's go do item number 7. Thank you. Thank you very much.